The recording will be provided to you. So please confirm if you see that window with breakout rooms available to you, just in case if you get stuck or if you have any questions and you need assistance from one of my colleagues here to help you guys out with kind of one-on-one in the breakout room.
I would say use the Q&A if y'all have any questions, and then I think it's one of the admins on the call will set up a breakout room. The participants wouldn't be able to start their own breakout room, but if you put a question in the Q&A, we can always jump on a breakout room and do follow-up.
Okay. And let me see. Okay, so here's what's on the agenda for today. So this workshop is designed to balance learning and hands-on practice. That way you walk away with something that, with not only just knowledge, but also practical skills. And the format is going to be basically a combination of slides followed by hands-on labs. In terms of timing, we basically have allotted about 30 minutes for the slides for the first half. So there's going to be two sections. The first section is going to be less technical. The second section is going to be a little bit more technical. The first section is going to focus mostly on generative AI capabilities of the platform. And the lab that's associated with the first section is not going to require any special environment setups or configurations. The second section is going to be a little bit more technical. And before we begin on the second section, we are going to have a 10-minute break as well. I think I have 15 minutes in there, actually, 15-minute break. So, basically the second half is going to be a deeper dive into generative AI, specifically into building chatbots and evaluating chatbots. And the lab, we sent out lab prerequisites for it. So it will require some special setup and whatnot, but we do have these breakout rooms. So in case if you get stuck, please post your technical questions and somebody from our team will pick it up and be able to provide support. So we all know that generative AI is taking the world by storm. It's not a buzzword anymore. It's a reality that's it's growing really fast. And here's a very powerful moment that you see here at the Data and AI Summit last year. We have NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang sharing the stage with Ali Ghazi, our CEO. And as you know, that NVIDIA has been at the forefront of AI innovation. And their partnership with Databricks is really driving a lot of groundbreaking advancements, which you'll get to see today. So Jensen said a couple of things during his keynote. He said, whatever you do, just start. You have to engage in this incredibly fast-moving train. And then the second thing he said was, every company's business data is their gold mine. So Jensen's right. This truly is a fast-moving train, and companies cannot afford to sit on the sidelines. Every day you wait, someone else is turning their data into gold, and the time is certainly to act now. So we just talked about generative AI, how it's growing super fast, but let's actually look at what it actually means for businesses, right? So there's basically three ways how generative AI is reshaping industries. You got innovation, competitiveness, and productivity. So when it comes to innovation, 91% of companies that are 1 billion plus in revenues and 97% of companies that are 10 billion plus in revenues are saying that they're investing into generative AI. This is according to MIT Tech Review. So it's no longer experimental. It's actually at the it's a core strategy of staying ahead for most companies. And it's not just about about keeping up, and it's 75% of CEOs actually believe that mastering generative AI will define who the industry leaders will be. This is from the IBM Institute for Business Value. And then when it comes to productivity, I personally, I'm a big fan of using ChatGPT and AI, and it's already a big part of my my workflow. I'm sure you guys are also using it. The claim from MIT Sloan is saying that employee productivity is increased by 40% for those that are using generative AI, that are using those chatbots. So that's basically 2 extra days out of a week, which is pretty stellar, actually. When it comes to like developing, 56% of those that are coding with coding assistants, they say that 56% are they're cranking out code 56% faster. So basically, generative AI is very powerful, and many companies are taking advantage, but there are challenges. So let's talk about that. So it is growing fast, but 90% of them are not feeling confident about putting those Gen AI enabled solutions into production. Now, why is that? Well, it's hard. Prototyping is relatively easy, but scaling AI models into production is complex because you got issues with fragmentation of data. Your data is siloed. You got multiple systems, all making it very difficult to unify these all these disjointed systems. You got also, as much as your data is siloed, you also have issues potentially with disjointed AI tools and frameworks. So you got integration challenges there. And then on top of, you throw in governance across your tooling and your data, and you got, it's easy how you can see that it can lead to all sorts of issues of, compliance risks, data exposure, let alone, your traditional lack of governance issues with hallucinations, when it comes to chatbots. So the key takeaway is deploying AI at scale. It requires clean data, seamless integration, and strong governance. So let's kind of take a look at a little bit deeper into this. So we all know that data is growing, and as I mentioned earlier, fragmentation is a big challenge. So this is something that we see across many enterprises. So we've got data silos. Some companies also use vendors that lock in their data. So we have vendor lock-in. I did mention integration complexity, and then when you're trying to govern all that stuff, it just becomes super hard. It all leads to higher costs. Also difficult to learn. Obviously, if it's difficult to learn, it's different to scale. So the takeaway is, on top of that, you tack on generative AI, it becomes even more challenging because all these issues are just amplified because, these models require more data for training, it requires more compute, and you do need this unified approach to basically kind of resolve all these issues to actually have something that's production grade and ready to move forward with. So here's like, if you don't get it right, here's some examples how you can have things that can lead to very costly failures, right? So we have a Chevy chatbot here. When asked about recommending the best truck, it actually recommended a Ford F-150. So this is a total fail. Obviously, it's the chatbot lacked the enterprise context. It recommended a competitor's product, so there was nothing actually in there when this chatbot was deployed to actually train the chatbot or have it respond in a way that where basically would know how to deal with competitors' data, would know how to deal with its own product lines. And then you also have issue with hallucination with Air Canada here in the middle. It invented a refund policy, so total hallucination, completely hallucinated a refund policy, which forced Air Canada to actually honor those, honor the costs that were associated with the customer had to follow through. So so there's real expenses that are associated with when these things aren't done right. And then last example here is it's a fictitious example, but it's very realistic in terms of what you could encounter with these chatbots. So if you have you have an example here, someone asking about their international plan, whether it's too expensive or not. And what we're seeing here is this customer service chatbot is basically leaking private data, leaking customer data. So this is a major no-go when it comes to compliance, privacy, all these things. So basically, you do need proper controls and governance. Otherwise, you can have major reputational damage to your company when you have systems like this. So that's part of the reason why companies generally avoid or are challenged. 90% of the companies challenged with putting these models into production. So basically, at the core of it is you do need high quality AI systems, and it really comes down to three pillars. You need something, accuracy is very important. So you need something the responses need to be fact-based. They need to be contextually relevant, and they need to avoid hallucination. They also need to be safe. So they need to prevent biases, avoid harming customers or saying harmful information. They need to protect sensitive data. And then all that needs to be, also governed well, right? So, there's all sorts of, many of our companies are operating in regulated industries. So you do need to stay compliant with all sorts of privacy laws, maybe industry-related compliance standards. All these things need to be built into these generative AI solutions. So let me take a pause here. I think I got a few messages from my team. I just want to make sure that we're not dealing with an emergency here. Okay. All right. So so basically, let's go on to the next slide. So we've covered accuracy, safety, and governance, but AI is only as valuable as as valuable as how the accessibility of data, of the enterprise data to its customers. Does anyone have a question here?
Doing. I was part of this tech one. You are absolutely.
I think they hear you.
Luke, can you guys go on mute, please? Thank you. So the role of generative AI is really to unlock insights, because that's something that AI can do really well. Is it can analyze vast amount of data, it can detect patterns, which all will enhance decision making. And then you also need to be able to democratize access to that data. So AI is no longer a tool for data scientists or machine learning engineers. With some of the toolings, some of the features that I'll be showing during labs, you will see that with generative AI, with chatbots, you can actually make non-technical users access some of that data and actually extract insights using just simple natural language, right? So the takeaway is AI can be truly impactful, and organizations do need strong data foundation that eliminates data silos, eliminates tooling silos, and ensures interoperability. So, and that's kind of where the lakehouse architecture comes in, right? We've been Databricks invented the lakehouse, and it's been part of the founding of our company was actually was based on a Spark system, and the idea was quite simple: is to really get the data into a lakehouse and build that foundation. So we basically work in these three formats. The lakehouse is interoperable in terms of storing all that data in different kinds of formats, which they're all open source, so we're not locking in customers' data. And there's also the advantages are obviously we can read and write across all those major open formats. That all eliminates silos, and ensures interoperability and also cost efficiency, right? So yes, data foundation is key. And then once you have all that data sitting in one place, you need to start thinking about how do you actually secure all that data. So how do you provide governance around that data? So, and that's kind of where Unity Catalog comes in. So Unity Catalog is a unified governance solution that works across structured, unstructured data, works across your other assets such as your AI models with various files, notebooks, and dashboards. So it's all built on open standards. So there is flexibility when it comes to compatibility with other tools. And it also creates, kind of a centralized security and governance posture, right? You're able to also track data lineage and monitoring. You can also control your cost and manage your resources better when things are centralized that way. So the key takeaway here is basically you have end-to-end governance, which ensures security, compliance, and scalability. And that all basically creates a strong foundation for tacking on AI, generative AI, some of these new advancements in there, making them very, very useful and actually ready to be taken into production. So, and this is basically a slide that basically talks about what does that mean when you have a lakehouse tacked on with generative AI. So that basically is what a data intelligence platform is. It unlocks a lot of value. So with Lakehouse, you have basically unified scalable data foundation with generative AI. You have we made an acquisition of Mosaic AI in 2023. And so that acquisition enabled us to put that layer of intelligence across across the Unity catalog, across the Lakehouse, and that's what what you'll see in the lab. That's what basically allows us to incorporate the semantic understanding, incorporate some of the tools that you'll see and experience a little bit later in the labs. So in this slide, what Databricks Data Intelligence Platform does, it unifies data, AI, and analytics into one single system. And the core components of that is you have the Lakehouse Foundation, data foundation itself, which is built on those interoperable 3 open standards, Delta Lake, Iceberg, and Parquet. You have the governance layer, Unity Catalog, which ensures compliance and security and access controls. And then on top of that, you have Lakehouse Intelligence, which provides those AI-powered insights because it has that semantic understanding of who has access to what through Unity Catalog, what kind of data is stored in there. And that basically opens up, a lot of opportunities. In specific, I'm going to call out these 4 major ones, right? When it comes to workloads, you have Mosaic AI, which supports classical and generative AI workloads. You have Databricks SQL, which is a high-performance analytics and warehousing, workflows for automating data ingestion and transformation. And then you can also, with AIBI, you have seamless integration with analytics tools. That's also not only just the integration with the tools themselves, but also democratizes access to those non-technical users. And that's kind of the focus of this first section, is to actually see what those things look like, to experience them, to actually interact with them. So with that said, Databricks, with all the work that our product team has done, with all the innovations that we've incorporated into the product, we are recognized as an industry leader in AI and data science. So on the left side, you have Gartner Magic Quadrant. So it recognizes a leader in data science and machine learning platforms. And that basically, you have 2 axes here. One is completeness of vision and the ability to execute. We're up there in the top right corner. And then the second one is you have the Forrester Wave, which is a leader in AI, recognizes us as a leader in AI foundation, which basically highlights Mosaic AI's capabilities for enterprise adoption of AI, right? So the takeaway here is Databricks sets the standard for data and AI innovation, and all that is to the benefit of our customers. Something that you guys can directly on that platform make yourselves more productive, more competitive. So with that said, here's a list of some of the enterprises that trust us and trust our platform, that use us. So I'm going to call out just 2 examples here that are from the manufacturing sector. So JetBlue, they use LLMs with real-time. They incorporate real-time weather data, IoT data, FAA data to create the world's first digital twin for airline operations. And that obviously leads to reduction in delays, improving passenger experiences. And the second thing I'm going to call out is Chevron Phillips. They leverage Databricks for generative AI, streaming, document processing, and also automation. So I'm going to make pull out one specific example, and that's going to be EasyJet. So EasyJet initially struggled with data silos across multiple cloud platforms. They lacked proper governance. They had all sorts of issues with just complexity of their existing infrastructure and high cost of that infrastructure. By adopting Databricks Lakehouse to deploy generative AI directly into their data platform, they were basically they built out a chat application with open source LLM models, and that enabled them to create a new AI-driven personal travel assistant. And that also secured so much interest from the executives that basically kind of opened up a floodgate of other opportunities across the organization. With that said, I'm going to come back to this Databricks Data Intelligence Platform slide. We've already seen this, but I'm going to focus only on 2 things: Databricks SQL and AI/BI integration. So let me pause here. I feel like there's some questions. I cannot see my chat window as I'm presenting. Give me a moment.
So Dastan, there is a question from Darby, and he's or she is trying to understand the difference between Mosaic AI and AI BI. If you could just address that.
Sure. So basically, AI BI is a set of UI-based tools that you can use, like dashboards and Genie. AI BI is basically kind of has two products. We're going to get into it later. Mosaic AI is something that developers can use to actually build applications, chatbot applications, build evaluation frameworks for those applications. And we're all going to get into that. But basically, AI BI is something is intended for non-technical users, whereas Mosaic AI is for actually building those applications. So it's more geared towards technical users, so they can actually build out those interact with like some of the more common frameworks, which are going to be more challenging for non-technical users. Did I answer your question? Any other questions?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay, so basically, Databricks SQL, it's a high-performance AI-powered cloud data warehouse. It's optimized for fast analytics and scalable workloads. And frankly, as part of the scope of this presentation, we're not going to dive too deep into just a long list of innovations and AI capabilities that are part of that, just because the focus here is on usability and not so much on the nuts and bolts of why it's so highly performant. There's a separate workshop that we have that dives deeper into some of the innovations in security, in cost optimization, in governance, just alone on Databricks SQL. And then when it comes to AI BI integration, it extends to basically business intelligence across the organization. So enabling non-technical users to have access and to analyze data, mostly through just common language. And you'll see that during the labs. So, excuse me, please. Let's go into the next slide here. So we just discussed how Databricks SQL and ABI enables advanced analytics across the organization. But what if anyone, not just data analysts, could ask questions and get insights instantly? That's kind of where generative AI comes in, right? So we're going to explore how AI makes self-service analytics a reality. So the goal here is empower non-technical users with AI-driven insights. And the concept is actually quite simple, right? You prompt it using natural language. AI analyzes your question. On the back end, writes multiple queries. There's actually a lot more going on there, which we're going to get into. But then it just gives you the answer that you need, that's relevant to you, that's accurate. That's basically the idea. That's the concept. So, and that is enabled through LLMs. They do make it easier as they're incorporated into these, as they're embedded into your AI and BI tools. And organizations are certainly, are rapidly adopting some of these off-the-shelf analytic solutions. But as you can see, let's kind of dive into what that looks like, right? Because it's there's a big difference between what's being demoed and what the reality is actually like, right? So we're going to actually take a look. I'm going to build out this whole slide with all these three things. That way we can talk about these three different vendors, right? So when asked a simple question such as "How is my pipeline?", we have vendor one, which basically returns a whole bunch of nulls. That's true. Your data sets may contain nulls, but it's not very helpful. So then you got vendor two, which basically says, yeah, your pipeline is zero. I mean, that's a little bit worrisome, right? Especially for a non-technical user. But what's happening under the hood, it's just not understanding the question properly. It may be even hallucinating stuff on the back end. And we'll see all that stuff, right? But basically, again, not very helpful at all. And then you have vendor three, which basically tells you that it doesn't understand what you're asking. It has no context of your data estate, of the tables that you have in there, what kind of objects you got. It has no concept of this I guess of the semantic layer, right? It has no understanding of what your estate is like, so it cannot provide you an answer. So the key takeaway is that none of them provide the desired or expected answers. And that's basically turns out to be a very hard problem. And that's exactly what here at Databricks, we actually embrace these hard problems, and I think we do a pretty good job at resolving some of these industries higher, kind of more difficult challenges. And you'll see a demo of that. And that's kind of where, as we go on here, this is where Databricks AI BI comes in. It's basically a twin product offering. It's got dashboards, which is made for visualizations, and it's got Genie, which is basically for natural language interaction. So with Genie, you can talk to it in simple English, and it will basically respond back to you. We'll get to see it. And all of that is governed by Unity Catalog to ensure that your data is secure, and it prevents unauthorized access to it. So let's dive a little bit into some of the key features of AI BI dashboard specifically. So it has AI assisted authoring. So you have AI suggestions to simplify and accelerate dashboard creation. We'll get to see all that. It's also because of that natural language interaction, it's accessible to all users regardless of their technical expertise. And then you can also whatever you create, whatever the dashboards you have, you can collaborate and share those dashboards across your organization. And so that actually, kind of another way of democratizing access to data and AI. So some of the example use cases are, for example, in sales and marketing, you can showcase revenue trends, you can showcase customer segmentation, or maybe like some, provide geographic analysis. I'm going to pause here just to make sure that I'm not missing any questions that you may have in the chat, or should I be answering any questions? Jyotsna, can you help me out here? Do you have
There
any
is,
questions?
yeah,
No?
there's one question in which someone is just trying to understand what exactly is a silo and how we help that. So maybe if you just talk through what a data silo would be and how the platform helps.
Yeah, so a data silo could mean multiple things, but in simple terms, all it means is that your finance data is stored in some database, let's say, that maybe your marketing folks don't have access to, right? Now, that's generally is a good thing, but let's say that you have some reports where you need to collaborate on that. And a lot of times the challenge is somebody has to manually run a query, provide the data to metrics, and that creates bottlenecks, right? So that's an example of a data silo where your teams aren't sharing data that they need. Whereas if you actually have a lakehouse platform with a proper Unity, through Unity Catalog, you have proper governance in place. Your teams can actually share whatever they need to share in an environment and with the users and with groups that should have access to it, right? So that basically takes away that bottleneck of running those manual queries. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions there?
Rest are
Okay.
addressed, I think. Yeah. So we can move on.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay. So let's kind of dive a little bit deeper into some of these native BI tools built directly into the platform that make analysts' lives more, much easier, right? So, and this is kind of, we did talk about silos. So there's no additional silos. So there's no need for data extractors or waiting on data teams, right? So you have real-time analysis across all of your data. And you have unified governance. Basically, it's one platform for your data, BI, and AI assets. It basically ensures end-to-end lineage of security. So there's no duplicating of policies. And then on top of that, you have AI-assisted intelligence, which understands the full data state. It works with your unstructured and structured data. And also, as the more you interact with it, it learns from that user impact and becomes more intelligent over time. So, so basically, we've talked about democratizing data and eliminating silos and also integrating AI BI. But the key question is like, what if you could actually interact with your data by simply having a conversation? Imagine asking, asking complex business questions and getting instant accurate answers without writing those SQL queries or waiting on your analyst to write that query for you. So, like, for example, here, how's the business doing in its FY goals? So, well, here we have like, your chatbot needs to understand what does FY mean? And And this is obviously fiscal year. It's something that we all understand, but each company may have their own set of corporate lingo acronyms that they use, right? So how can you have a general chatbot that was like ChatGPT that's open source, right? Understand the unique idiosyncrasies of your business, right? And that's basically what this platform allows, because it understands your semantic layer, because it understands your business structure and how you name your key metrics and operational goals. You can actually ask these questions. So with that said, so AI assistant understands the semantic of your data. It knows exactly which tables to reference and how to qualify those questions and answers, and basically it can provide you answers like this. So here's that response. You know, we have this is very interesting. I always look at that slide and I'm like, hey, that's interesting that Ali is asking this question, right? So basically, again, it's a certified answer. It's been vetted by and been, you know, this is from Genie interface. So it's been built in such a way where when it's rolled out into production, it incorporates the semantic understanding of your data, understands what FY means, understands maybe other acronyms, it understands your tables and where they're stored. And when it gives you an answer, it gives you what you need. So so that's basically kind of a game changer, really. And frankly, what does it actually do for teams? Well, basically, many teams know what insights they need, but they just don't have the technical skills to extract those things. That usually requires SQL. You know, also being able to connect to those things. And then if you can't connect, you know, there's governance and should you be having access to it, right? So there's all sorts of things that that kind of get in the way of, even if you have the technical skills to do it, may not be that those, you know, that you'll be able to actually get those insights as quickly as you can. So with Project Genie, you basically enable anyone to interact with data using natural language. It provides instant insights. Sorry, let me build this out. It provides instant insights and visualizations without code, without notebooks. You don't have to configure servers. You don't have to configure access policies. So it kind of removes complexity and really lets you tap into those AI-powered analytics and insights. So, and we believe this is the future of enterprise AI. This is how you can actually start taking advantage and share and democratize some of these new advances in technology across your organization with some of those, pretty much with all users, right? Technical and non-technical. With that said, I'm gonna pause for a little bit to make sure that we address all the questions, and I also want to make sure that my team is also not pinging me here. Give me a second. Any questions in the chat?
There is a question on Genie API. Just to add over here to what Dastan was explaining, we do have APIs available for Genie. So you could use those REST-based APIs in case you want to integrate the natural language processing provided by Genie on your structured data in your own application or whichever way you want to.
Okay, and Lohita.
Hey, thank you. Quick question. So Project Genie, as you said, it can automatically give you that BI, reports or dashboards. So if when we have the pipeline set up, we can't, like, they're generally in any environment, lower environment also. So they're generally used for overall process. So can we isolate that and try how this Project Genie works on it? Or how do we, how can we check how, if it, okay.
Yeah, and we're going to get into it during the labs, but I'll quickly just mention it. When you actually set up a Genie room, you can, the person who initially sets this up, you can also edit it, you can give permissions to others to maintain it and whatnot. But when you set up a Genie room, you basically point it to a set of tables that you want that room to have access to. And whoever has, when it comes to users, if that Genie room is shared among a group of users, they're only going to be able to interact with the data that Genie room has access to. So effectively, you can have multiple rooms, maybe that are focused on various domains. Like, for example, let's say that you want to be able to enable your finance team to ask questions about revenue, right, or whatever. So you can have specifically revenue-related tables as part of that Genie room. So finance executives or sales executives or executives in general, right, can interact with revenue data, but they're not going to be able to see the cost data, or maybe HR data or other stuff.
So it can be workspace specific within the Databricks, and also, separate Genie rooms, as you just said, like, separate with the data that we want to select. And if we want to get a BI dashboards on how the pipeline health is, how it is doing from source to raw or something like that, all that can be done in private, like, workspaces and private Genie rooms is what I'm understanding.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, that is correct. Absolutely. So, so this is the time. Yesterday, you should have gotten an email with a zip file and then also the handout. So this would be a great time for you guys to pull it up because we're about to start the hands-on section. And I know that we started about 15 minutes late. I'm glad that we were able to kind of go through the material quickly to make up some of that time. So we're sitting right around 40 minutes here, given that we started at 15 minutes late. We should be good on time. We should be able to catch up. So here's kind of the lab setup that we're going to do for the next section. There are two paths, and there's one preferred path. First of all, let me ask the question: have you guys, if someone would you please put in the chat if you don't have the zip file or if you don't have the handout. And then team, would you guys also monitor in the chat window to ensure who those folks are? That way they can continue with this first section if they don't have the data sets
Hey,
or the instructions.
She's posting in the chat now.
Okay, excellent. I wish I could see the chat window here. Oh, here it is.
Yeah, so I have posted the zip as well as the handout in the chat, so
oh, wonderful!
They can all
Thank you so much,
download.
Jyotsna.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, I'll let you guys do that. I'm going to actually try to switch into our Databricks environment. So what I did is I basically created my own trial account using my personal email address just to ensure that everybody has access to it. So the first, the lab for this first session is going to be non-technical. It's not going to require any configurations. So so basically, the environment that you see here is that environment where it's stripped down. There's no special setup. There's no special permissions. So you should be able to, at the very least, if you don't have, if you weren't able to create, go through the prerequisites handout and configure your environment, you can simply create your own new trial environment and still run through that. And if you need help, all it is, it's go to Databricks. I think it's databricks.com/trial. We'll find that link in there, and then basically set that environment up. You'll get an email, depending on which email address you use. Go ahead and use your personal one if you have any issues. We're not going to be dealing with any company private data. It's all public information here, so you're safe to do that. So please have your environment set up. Thank you so much, Ajit, for posting the link. And then while you do that, I'm going to go ahead and start, and I'll try to go somewhat slow to ensure that we're not, folks can catch up if they need to. So, okay, let's go into our handout. So you should be able to, so you should have received this handout. So I'm going to go click on Lab 1. Okay. All right, so let me actually, before I do that, let me actually read the scenario. So here's the scenario. The scenario is basically you have you are a BI analyst and the company's OfficeMax. It's a global office supply company focused on providing high quality and services. And you have a CEO who needs visibility into sales pipeline to improve revenue. As part of the data analyst team, you were overwhelmed. There's a bunch of requests. And the challenge here is executives need real-time insights, but they rely on analysts. And as a team, you'd like to have self-service capabilities to reduce these bottlenecks. So the goal here is to empower your CEO and the leadership team with some of these AI-driven self-service analytics, and then also to enable faster, to enable them to make faster decisions without depending on analysts. All right, so that's the setup. So let's go ahead and basically, again, I'm going to be using this handout. So everything that we're going to be doing here is going to be pretty much scripted to go along with this, right? And I've already kind of built all this out. So, but let's go ahead and actually follow along here. All right, here we go. So you have two options, right? Option number one is to install. So there's a recommended path. It's under option number one. So we have that drag and drop UI. So let's go ahead and create a catalog first. So we're going to go to catalog. And then we're going to do plus. Excuse me. I think since I've already created a catalog for GenAI Workshop here, but I should be able to just create a new one here, add catalog. So yeah, so you can basically add a name and then press create. You don't have to configure anything else here. Since I've already created one, this is basically what it's going to create. And then once you do that, you can the zip file which I sent you, I'll go ahead and unzip it. And then once you unzip that, you can go on create new. So you can go to new and then add upload data here. I'm going slow just to ensure that everybody else has time to do this and has sufficient time to configure this. So we're basically going to go to create and modify table. And then we're going to drop our Parquet files in here. Let me know if you're done with that. So I'm since I've already finished this step, I'm just going to go back to my data here again. In catalog, GenAI Workshop, TV demos, AIBI. Step 5 here, it talks about creating a dashboard. We will uploading a dashboard, so you can actually go to dashboards here, and then you can actually upload it, import dashboard from file. So you should have a JSON file. You can upload it through this option, and then once you upload it, it should appear like this. Mine is fully connected because there are some scripts that you have to change, and we'll go through those steps. But right now, you don't have to worry about it. How's everyone doing with up to this point? Are we able to follow along?
Yes.
Okay. So now we're just going to go to queries, SQL editor, sorry. And I basically created all these things, and and you can just basically see if your data has been uploaded properly into the right catalog that you've created. You should be able to run this query. So pay attention to the catalog name and the schema. But you should be able to run a query like this and actually see a sample of that data that you just uploaded. All right. So right about this stage, you probably are seeing option 2, which is installing programmatically. I'm not going to actually focus on that today because the environment that I'm using is a trial environment. And I can open up a different one, but I think it's easier to use the UI version for here. So we're going to skip option 2 in the handout. And we're going to go, and by the way, let me just go to the handout here just so you guys know what I'm talking about. So this option 2 is we're going to skip. We're not going to do that. We're going to go directly to Databricks SQL Editor. So that's our next section. And I'm going to go back to this query because this is what we need. Okay, so what we're going to do, and this is basically I've put this query in here, but you can copy and paste what you have in the handout under step 2 of the Databricks SQL Editor. You should have something that looks like this. All you have to do is just change your use catalog and then use schema. You can do it programmatically, or I guess with SQL up top. I commented it out, and I basically used my drop downs here for that. So both options work. So it's your choice. Once you do that, go ahead and run that query. And what that query is going to do is it's basically going to add primary keys and foreign keys to your table. So we're going to go back to our catalog, GenAI Workshop, UV demos, and let's take a look at this opportunity. So you should see something, that like this would appear. So we've added primary keys with that SQL that we just ran. Have you guys been able to run that SQL command?
Not yet.
Okay, I'll stick around. Let me know if you get stuck, or maybe just ask, post your question in there. We'll see if those breakout rooms will be helpful.
Dastan, I think someone is facing a challenge because they do not have a serverless warehouse up and running, and due to that, I think
okay.
they cannot see the catalog content. So maybe you can just let them. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do that. So again,
just real quick to while you're doing that, Todd just got access to the trial environment. So if you can kind of catch folks up to where we are, if you've got a second too, just a quick overview of where we are in your instructions.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me do that first, actually, just to ensure that everybody's got it. Basically, I sent this handout, Todd. So this handout is it has basically all the step-by-step instructions of what we need, and I've also sent. We shared a zip file. I think Jyotsna posted those files in the chat room. So if you can download the zip file, unzip it, and then go through the exercise of uploading the data into the catalog. You'd have to create a catalog. And let me just kind of go through all these steps very quickly. So go to catalog, add a catalog, name the catalog, created. I've already created one already. Once you created, go to new, upload data, create or modify tables, add those Parquet tables that are in the zip file. And then the next screen here should show you where you want to load it to, like which catalog, which schema. So add those in there. And then there's a JSON file for the dashboard. That's going to get uploaded somewhere else. That's going to get uploaded in the dashboard here. So you go to dashboard, create dashboard, import from file. That's where that JSON file is going to go for the for this dashboard. So you just do this. I'm not going to upload mine because I already have one. So that's kind of where we are. We then went into SQL Editor and we tested what we've just uploaded by running this query, select all from, make sure you point to the right catalog, right schema. You run that, you should be able to see that table. And then after that, we're going to basically run this SQL query to execute addition of primary keys and foreign keys to various tables. And that's kind of where we are right now. Is folks should be running this right now.
Dasan, I think one more thing. Few of them do not have permissions to create the catalog, so I guess they can just use a catalog to which they have access.
Yes, they can. Whatever. So You just create a separate schema there. So whatever catalog you have, just select that when you upload your Parquet files. Just select the catalog, whatever you have access to, and then add a new schema, and then your data can just go there.
And maybe we can take a pause over here, Dastan, because I think few of them are not being able to follow. So we can just take a pause and let them
Sure.
do the rest.
Feel free to ask questions. What I'll do, go ahead, Lahita.
I just downloaded the files shared, the install AI workshop and MFG SC GenAI. So should I be opening my Databricks in private, or how should it be like? So since it's the office environment.
Are you talking about the trial environment of Databricks? Is that how you're going about it? Lahita, how about this? Jyotsna or Scott or any SA that we have, can you guys maybe start use one of those breakout rooms to help out those folks that have technical issues?
Yeah, if somebody could please, help Todd out as far as a breakout room, get him, caught up to where we are, be helpful. Thank you.
Sure, I can do that. You might want to put me and Todd in one breakout room.
Okay. Let me. Let's see. We have 2 rooms, and let me see if I can find Todd. 100 participants. Okay. Is there a way for us to let folks kind of join rooms themselves? I think there's a way of doing that, right? Allow participants to choose a room. Okay, here we go. I'm going to update this. Okay. Todd, you should be able to join any of the rooms now. I think I just checked off the allow participants to join in your room. So I've only created 2 rooms. Let me know if you need more than 2 rooms. Let me know if the breakouts, if it works. Looks like it does.
So which room should I be joining, 1 or 2? I think one. I see 2 people in there.
Yeah. Go ahead and join.
Okay. Thank you.
1. Can we have one of the SAs join room number 1 to help folks out? Thank you, Ajit, for taking. I guess Ajit wouldn't be able to hear me here.
Oh, can I ask a question about when we're uploading the tables that you provided, the Parquet files? Does it have to be one at a time?
Yes, it does have to be one at a time because it's one at a time for creating each separate table. I should have clarified that. Yes, you are correct.
Thank you. Yeah, I was like, because I was choosing all 4, and then it's like it's only creating 1, and I was like, ah.
Yes. Thanks for clarifying that. Yes, absolutely.
Dastan, I do have one question, Atif here.
Hey, Atif.
So I asked in the chat as well, but I think we got confused with what I was thinking. So you created a Genie workspace based on certain tables, and you asked, for example, like Ali asked about, give me based on category, what is the revenue generated or something like this, right? Now, the moment I asked that and I got the answer, now I feel that that answer is correct. Now I want to add that to a dashboard so that I don't have to publish a separate dashboard later on or build it from scratch. So the moment I or some of my developers or business stakeholders keep on asking these questions, I want to add them into a dashboard as a KPI. Is there a possibility to do that so that at the end we have a full-fledged KPIs published finally?
Yes. So there are 2 ways of going about it. The most direct way, if you're already in Genie Room, you asked your question, you can open up, there's a SQL where you can, after each prompt that you ask, it gives you an option to look at the SQL. You can cut and paste that SQL into a SQL editor, create a dashboard, and then add it manually. But there's an easier way of doing things, the second path, and that's going to be through BI, AI BI dashboards. You can actually start creating a dashboard and then create those dashboards using natural language or SQL. Both options are available. We'll demo that. And then it will automatically populate your dashboard with what you need. So
okay, so first of all, start with AI BI, basically, our dashboard, and then ask in natural language and then add them to it.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Understood.
And then another advantage is that with AI BI dashboards, we do have this private feature of it's available to everybody. But the what you can do is once your dashboard's up, you can actually enable a Genie room in the dashboard and make that available to your users, so people can actually whatever data the dashboard is built on, the same Genie room can now be a little bit more flexible in terms of natural language, queries, natural language questions.
Sure. Okay. Got it.
Yep.
Thanks, Dastan.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Atif. Okay, it looks like I accidentally pressed my security token key, or did I delete my queries? Yeah, there you go. Don't want to do that. How are we doing, by the way? Did we get most of these issues resolved with adding primary keys and foreign keys?
Yeah, yes, Timmy.
Not yet. I'm still trying to connect the tables to the dashboard right now.
Okay. Do a little time check. Yeah, we're basically an hour into it. And let me see. So we might want to go a little bit faster in the next couple of sections. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close all of our rooms here and then pull everyone in here because we do have to keep moving forward. I'm assuming if you did not go into one of the breakout rooms, I'm assuming you're able to connect everything. You have your primary keys and foreign keys all set up now.
I do.
That's good to hear. Okay, I'm going to give them maybe another 30 seconds, and then I'm going to go ahead and close all these rooms so we can pull those folks back into our main room. All right, let's pull them in now. All right, everybody. My apologies for pulling you guys in and ending your breakout rooms, but in the interest of time, we do have to keep making progress. Can I get I guess Jyotsna was in one and Ajit was in the other room. Were we able to help a lot of the folks out with getting the primary keys and foreign keys mapped out? Jyotsna, hello?
Hey,
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I was in room 2, but nobody showed up, so.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, I think when you actually close the room, and this is something that I'll have to learn, when you close the room, it actually gives them 30 seconds by default. So Jyotsna is still in that room. Okay, that's why. Okay.
Okay, so Dasan, I just came out of the breakout room. I think I could get Todd to work through uploading the tables.
Great. Did you all go through the?
But it asked us to X out of that breakout room. So can I join back? I don't know. They were all
Oh
there.
yeah, they're all there.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
how about
also
this?
got out of
So
the breakout room, Jyotsna. So
Oh,
it will
yeah,
be
okay, okay.
helpful. Yeah, it will be
so
helpful if we can rejoin for 1 second. I'm so sorry for delaying it.
no, it's okay. So folks, what I'm gonna do, I will open up the breakout rooms, but I'm gonna keep moving forward because most folks are already kind of done. So when you join back in, I'll try to catch you guys up as quickly as I can. But in the interest of time, we do have to keep moving forward. So I'll open up the rooms, but if you guys can, if you got it to run, no issues. Just keep following along with what we have. If you don't have it running, just observe at this point. I think it'll be better. Okay, so we're going to continue here. So going back to these instructions that I shared with you guys, let's see. We just mapped our entity relations. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like, right? So we're going to go back to the catalog, select, and I think we're already in that, but let's go ahead and go here, DB demos, AIBI, and then we will select this one. And then we can see relationships here. So this is basically, this primary key is a foreign key on this table. So, and this is kind of the nice thing, you have this visual representation of how these things are connected. And that's also going to be helpful for that semantic understanding of your data. So Genie, the AIBI dashboards, some of the, what makes this data intelligence platform intelligent is that semantic understanding of the relationships between your data. And also, you can see these AI suggested descriptions of this table. So you can see that the opportunity table, this is all automatically generated, right? So you can just go ahead and accept it. So I'll go ahead and do that. You can also create for each table, you can also AI generate the comments. So it will actually populate all these things. I'm going to let it refresh here a little bit. So it's running a little bit slow. Anyway, there's a manual way of doing it. But the button that I pressed here, yep, it's all done now. So then you can basically click through these and accept them. There is a way of accepting all of them. If this was run on all, it should give you an option like accept all. So yeah, that's some of the capabilities of the platform with some of the built-in generative AI components into the platform. So let's go ahead and keep moving forward down these instructions here. We are now going to go back to the SQL editor. And then I ran this query using effectively. So what I'm going to do this, I'm going to delete this again. And then I'm going to go to this little AI kind of AI assistant button. And then we're going to basically cut and paste what I have highlighted in the handout. We're going to put it in here, and it's basically help me get the distribution of stage names across all opportunities in the opportunities table. So so we do that. It'll generate this query. We accept it. Let's go ahead and run it. And we get this table. So we can go to pie chart. I've already built this pie chart out, but let's go ahead and start from scratch just so you get to see how it's done. So we have the option to select different plots. Selected pie, stage name is fine. We'll keep the rest the same. So yeah, that's the same plot that was generated earlier. So now we've got two of them. So super easy, as you could see. And then Atta, if you were asking questions, how can we actually cut and paste the query from, let's say you're in the Genie room, you ask the question, you can take a query, you can basically cut and paste into here, create a pie chart, and then add this pie chart into a dashboard manually. But then a little bit later, I'll show you how you can actually do that much, much simpler using the BI dashboards. So I'm going to go into the second more complex example. And this is, you will see that it's going to join data from multiple tables. This is a little bit more complex query, but you can still generate it with a right, if you just prompt it just with English. So I'm going to go ahead and also delete all this, open here, and then basically paste in this. Can you create 4 global revenue quantiles for accounts ranked by annual revenue in descending order, excluding null values? Right, so we'll run this query, press accept. Make sure that so run this query. Did I break something? I think I broke something here. Function, annual revenue cannot be resolved. You mean the following? Diagnose error. And this is a good way for us to actually see the diagnosing. So let's go ahead and run this now. Anyways, demo gods aren't working with me today, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut and paste what's originally in there. Okay. So when it comes to so generally, again, it was probably some really easy fix. I just decided not to, in the interest of time, to spend on fixing it. But I'm sure I probably didn't name and noticed that it says here annual revenue without the underscore, annual revenue without the underscore, whereas before it was putting the underscore in there. So that's the issue. So little things like that may happen. Which probably also had to do with the fact that whenever we imported the table and when I added the comments, I didn't accept the comments, so that didn't register with the platform. So it's important. One of the best practices that we'll see that later on is we do encourage for folks, as you create your tables, to actually name your comments properly. Make sure you add the right context. Otherwise, that's basically how you tell some of the generative AI, I guess the intelligent part of the intelligence platform. That's how you tell. It's like, hey, this is what our acronyms mean. This is what our table means, and this is what it says. So it's important to actually go into your catalogs, and this is what I'm talking about. When you go to catalogs, I'm talking about these comments. So opportunity. These comments. So I only filled in this part. I didn't fill in the rest. So that was part of the reason why it struggled with that query. With that said, let's go to that query again, because I want to get into some of these AI functions. Before I do that, I don't think I finished the bar plot. So let's go ahead and basically just show you again. This is a little bit more complex, but it gives you some of the better understanding of how to incorporate more complexity into your plots. So we're just going to go ahead and rebuild it again. So bar, we're going to choose column, region C. We're going to do add. We'll do quantile. We'll do count on this one, group by region C. And that's basically, I think, looks like what we have here, right? Quantile, region C. Yeah. So, yep, I think this is it. So as we, there's probably a slight difference in there. I did something wrong in there, but yes, the idea is you can play around with the configurations as you build those plots and modify and change these things. I think I'm not following all the steps in the instructions because I'm rushing through things now because we do need to make up the time that we lost. The handouts, the instructions in the hands have been tested. They should produce exactly what you see in there. So later on, if you need to go back and rerun everything to get everything to show up exactly how it needs to be showed up, you can do that. But in the interest of time, I do have to move on to AI functions. So what are AI functions? This is basically some of the built-in functions, and there's a separate slide that we're going to review, but this is just a demo of what we ran. So we can basically run them individually and say, hey, what is AI generate a concise, cheerful title for a summer bike sale, right? So, and this is very much like what ChatGPT would do. It gives you a few options. So run this query. Maybe we can fix grammar. So let's go ahead and run that cell. So yep, has some mistake. We can classify things if it's urgent or not urgent. And I'm not going to run this one just because you get the idea. We can translate things into, and this is going to be probably interesting to see. Yeah, I don't speak French. For those that do, let me know if it's correct. Let's see, similarity search. This is another thing. And this is the classify and similarity search. I can easily see potential use cases. I mean, a lot of times you may have, let's say, some data that's not, that doesn't quite fit the format. Like let's say you have some intake form for patients, or you have some intake form for vendors, and maybe they type in certain things in there, but your categories are set such that they have to be discrete. They have to land in specific buckets. So so you can basically classify some raw inputs into those discrete buckets. Like for example, maybe somebody misspelled senior analyst for a job title, right? And you wanna have a very, very specific way how you spell that for your dashboards to work. So you can have, hey, make sure you select this specific spelling. So you can basically clean up your raw data inputs using AI classify. That's one way of doing it. Similarity is another way. You can, let's say maybe you're kind of on the fence. Maybe something is not going to be quite the same. You can then add a score and say, hey, how similar is the input to the other input, right? So we can run this query, and that gives you the similarity score between these two. We've got Databricks Apache Spark versus Apache Spark and Spark Engine. So we can see what those similarities are like. So any questions? I wasn't, there's a more complex query that you see here, which basically allows you to do the same operation in multiple records. And I'm happy to run that. I think that's where we left. I think that's where the query was when we just opened up this thing. So I'm gonna maybe go ahead and rerun that so it goes back to that original one. But in the meantime, I'm gonna take a pause for a little bit and let you guys ask questions. Do we have anything in the comments?
I have a quick question, actually. So in a world where like we put our company data into ChatGPT and they get our company data, I have to ask the question about like where the LLMs that generate these responses live, and like I just want verification from you guys that it's private on our data. If we put our data into Databricks and then we start running them on these AI functions, it's not saving anywhere, and it's like safe to use for our company.
Yeah, so I can answer that with, and this is gonna be probably, we're gonna dive much deeper into that during the second session, but I'll give you a very short answer. So with AI Gateway, you can actually point to models that are open source, that are hosted in your environment, meaning that no data is going to go anywhere. It's going to stay there. It's in your own endpoint that you set up for it. But if you do partner with Azure and Azure OpenAI, we can actually select those models. Then obviously you may want to look into what how does Azure actually handle that data, right? Do they store it? Do they not store it? I believe there's options where you can actually opt out of, training and all those things, so your data wouldn't be stored on it. But obviously, if you create, if you host some powerful open source model, and there's always, I'm sure you've heard most recent announcements with what was that, Deep something, just had it in my
DeepSeek.
email, or
DeepSeek.
DeepSeek. There you go. Yeah. So DeepSeek, it's available on Hugging Face. I'm not sure if anyone out of RSAs, have you guys heard of it? Has anyone tested it on our platform? I wouldn't be surprised if somebody has already set something up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Internally, the efforts are on. Yeah.
Yep. So basically, the short answer is you can take any model that's open source, all its weights and everything, host it in your own environment. And because it's in your own VPC, your own environment, your data will stay there. It's not going to go anywhere.
Okay, so but if you don't do that, is the Genie and everything working on something that might go outside of our VPC
At some
and everything?
point, yeah, at some point, and this is where I may need Jyotsna or Scott to kind of pitch in here. But at some point, the backend for Genie used to be ChatGPT. I'm not sure if it still is, and I don't know exactly what the implications are in terms of, I think it's going to be private. So anyway, do you guys want to chime in here?
I can add something to that. Dastan, the links that Jyotsna shared in the chat go into detail on the models that are used for each of the assistive features, and what data is shared or not shared. The backend model for Genie are Azure OpenAI services, but we do not let them train on your data. That's the short answer, but there's some more details and coverage in the documentation.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that pretty much covers our AI functions. Now let's go ahead and get into dashboards, and this is going to be really cool. So let's go into, I have this window open, but since we're done with this one, I'm just going to use this tab. So let's go to dashboards, and then you should have already imported your JSON file. Have you done that? It's super easy to do. Just just do import dashboard from file, point it to the JSON, which was part of your the zip file that was sent to you, and basically upload that. What you should have is something like this show up, and then just click on that. And I'm going to go to draft version. You guys get to see the data. And then once you do that, you may have to connect the things into the right, because you have your own schema in there, and you have your own catalog that you created. So your dashboard may not show anything until you actually point it to the right data sets. And all these things should be part of our instruction set. So yes, in step number 3 here, let me go back here real quick. I'll show it to you. So AI dashboards, step number 3. That's kind of where we are. Let me know if you're able to get everything pointed in the right, to this table, specifically accounts. And then once it's in there, what we're going to do is we're going to clone, and then clone a dashboard, and then kind of work off of there. So let's do this here. Oh, published version. And I'm going to try to basically follow, again, just follow the same instructions that are in there. So we're going to do, let's call it rename. I'm going to just give it a different name, call it test. And then we're going to add a visualization by clicking this button here on the bottom. Click that, and then you can just ask your question. You can simply cut and paste what we have in the instructions, or you can just type it out. I'm not a fast typer, so I'm just going to do this, display revenue. Okay, accept. So you should have something like this show up. So Atif, this is to your question that you were asking earlier, is can you actually create a dashboard using natural language? Yes, you can. So that's how it would be done. You can here, let me add another visualization, make it smaller so it fits in here. Actually, you know, I think I pressed on the wrong thing, so I'm going to delete them. I meant to click on this. Okay. So here we're gonna do display total count of accounts. Mm-hmm. Yep. Then you can actually go here as well. You can, you know, change format. So conditional style, default, font size, format, custom, you know, all these choices are available to you. And again, play around with it. But the idea is you can see how quickly it is to build something like this. You can actually start building plots as well. So let's do revenue by region. Oh, I keep pressing this. I mean to press this. Revenue by region. That. And then maybe we're gonna go in there and do oh yeah, so this revenue is not filtered, so we can actually start filtering things. So let's go ahead and add that filter. Widget title. Again, I'm probably not following the instructions again in the interest of time, but we can go back to the dashboard that was already built, which is in here. And this is probably going to be simpler for me to actually display all the functionality. But basically, in the, you know, had I had more time, I would have probably followed every single step and it would have been able to generate exactly what you see here. This is what I built earlier. But yes, you can basically select, for example, there's cross filtering that happens. So you can select this. When you click on the outside, it allows you to kind of unclick. So you can drill down and say, hey, let's take a look at this one, right? So what is the opportunity by stage for customers with annual revenue over time? I'll click on this just to see everything. You can add, range, date ranges. There's all sorts of other things that you can add there. And then also you can actually add the table itself. So going back to that scenario that we've had, for those executives with self-service analytics, this would be very useful, right? You can build out this dashboard, send it to them. And then when you publish it, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and publish it because this one does have enable Genie for experimental. So we're going to go ahead and enable that. Publish. You can set your access. You can also, there is options to embed this dashboard as well. We're actually not going to get into it because it's a little bit more advanced, but not so advanced. But there's basically creates an iframe. You can actually put that into other applications. But a little bit out of scope, especially that we're pressed for time now. We're going to just skip that. So basically, you can copy a link, share that link with it, or you can actually add people to this list if they're part of the your existing Databricks environment. So with that said, let me go ahead and finish when it's published, and then and actually this is something that I'm glad it stored my previous conversations, but basically whatever data sets are connected into this, you can not only do you have a dashboard that's already published, but you can also let folks ask questions and interact with that data through Genie. So this is very familiar to what you would see, at least it's the chat section of Genie rooms. Basically, it shows up here. Any questions?
Just have one question.
Mhm.
So when we go to the Genie room, right, usually there is a restriction of number of tables.
Mhm.
So when you are in here, is the same restriction based on number of table or number of data sets too for Ask Genie?
Yeah, so I can expand a little bit onto that restriction, because I think a lot of times our documentation says that there's a restriction to number of tables, but the reality is it's not about the number of tables, it's about the metadata that is associated with those tables. So you may have just one table, but it has, let's say, 30, 40, 50, maybe 100 columns. And let's say if those columns are also highly heavy in terms of the metadata, I'm talking about the comments, for each column. And all that needs to fit into the prompt because it's a RAG architecture, and that's what limits that size. So yes, it's a best practice with Genie and dashboards. It's the same engine that's powering the same that's underneath, right? So the best practice is to really scope things to specific domains. You don't want your Genie room to be so broad, because then you're going to start hitting issues with table limits, prompt limits, and then performance is just going to degrade too.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I got a question here.
Hey, Amar.
The tables that the Genie might be using, what if one of the table or, the tables have some sort of a row filter applied on it? There is a row filter you can apply, which can restrict the records that others can see on the table if they do select star. So what happens in the output generated by Genie on those tables if they have row filters? Will that respect the row filters on the tables?
So great question. The answer is whenever you set up a Genie room, I believe at one point it would once you publish it, it only works through a service principal. So if that service principal has the same restrictions, then those restrictions would apply. But I think there's at some point, team, go ahead and step in here. At some point, we were able to actually pass through the login credentials to the Genie room directly to the credentials of the user itself. So if the user has access to it, then RLS, CLS would also be compliant with that. I don't know whether that's in private preview or it's already GA right now. Our product team innovates constantly. So team, if you want to step in and add a little bit more color onto that, I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah, that user pass through is in private, is in preview.
Okay.
And so once that's complete, it should be subject to all of the same Unity catalog constraints that would apply to that user.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks, Scott. All right. Well, let's. I guess we can move forward with. How are we doing on time? 9:45. You know what? I'm afraid that we're going to be cutting it a little bit too close to our time limit if we move on to the next section, which is actually building out Genie spaces. But what we can do is we can just kind of quickly review what we've already built. So let's do that. I'm going to go to. I think there's a Genie room that's already been set up for me here as part of the demo environment. Okay, so start warehouse. Okay, so maybe it would have been just as easy to build a room. I will quickly go through the process of building a room, but I'm not going to spend too much time on maybe customizing it or playing around with it. The idea is just to kind of show you what it is and how it works. So basically, what you do is you create a room here, give it some name, GenAI Workshop. You can add a description, add a default warehouse to it. We can add a table. Let's go ahead and add all of these tables that we had. Maybe accounts, maybe this one. Actually, no, we don't need this one. Let's do this one. confirm that. We can add sample questions just so folks can be prompted to understand what kinds of questions they can start the conversation with. And then, yeah, so once you get it all set up, that's what you will see. You can start a new chat. It automatically defaults to this, and then you can ask a question like, explain the data set. So, and there's that explanation. So, again, in the interest of time, I'm going to kind of quickly. You can basically make a few changes into the general instructions. Our manufacturing. So as you go through the workshop here, and I think we may have to just skip this, but basically, you can, when you have time, please do go through these things in more detail. You should be able to set up your own room and then actually go through every single step here to get a fuller grasp of capabilities and what it does and all the features of Genie Rooms. But for now, I'm just going to have to make an executive decision and move faster. So, but basically, you can add your general instructions here. Once you actually run a query, so if we go back to this query, we can say, hey, what is our revenue for this fiscal year, right? And let's see if it's going to generate something. So yeah, see, oh, this is great. This is a wonderful thing about it's not some like, for example, for those that have interacted with ChatGPT, it always wants to just answer your question. It doesn't prompt you back like, hey, can you clarify certain things? And this is great because what I did here is I asked the question and it wants me to clarify, hey, can you please tell me what your fiscal year is? So this is part of the, we're going to get into the second half of the session when we're going to be building RAG applications with agentic systems. That's what, so as you can see, Genie is not just some simple chatbot that will hallucinate an answer, right? It will actually start clarifying things. So that's, this is great that we didn't have quite everything set up. So it gave me an opportunity to demo this feature. So let's give it yes, Jan 1 through. I mean, it's never like this, right? But let's just do this.
But Dastan, shouldn't it reason out itself when we said that for this fiscal year?
Yes, and I didn't specify years, as you can see here. So it basically gave us last year or this year, right?
Yeah, but ideally it should not ask basically which fiscal year you are talking about, because I just said this and that this means this basically. So
No. It asks for specifying fiscal start and end dates for fiscal year, because some companies go April to April. Some companies go, it's never January to December, right? It's never like that. Yeah, that's
asking when the fiscal year is actually starting, is it?
Yes, that's what it's asking. So, which is really, like, if you think about it, like, that's what an analyst would be asking too, right? Because for every company, fiscal year means different things, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay,
yeah.
Understood.
So that's what I wanted to point out. And then you can just basically see, hey, what does that generated query looks like, right? That's what it did. We specified our years, and it just basically gives 2024. So you can actually see how transparent the system is too by saying, hey, what did you generate? What did you look at, right? What actually, what are the specifics of that query? So
you can add an instruction also, right? Just if you wanted to.
Yes. Thank you so much, Seetham. That's correct. You can add instructions here. You can define what your fiscal year means in here. You can also add that question, like, for example, as you define that, you can actually define what a specific query should return with a specific prompt. So when people ask question, not exactly like it, but similar, because it uses NLP, so it does match up similarities, it will map to some pre-existing SQL functions that you've created, right? So So basically, that's basically covers at least majority of what Genie Rooms does. I'm going to go back to the slides. We're going to get out of this demo here for a little bit, and let's see how are we doing on time here. 9:52. Given that we started a little bit later due to our Zoom issues, I'm going to have to cut back on our break a little bit. So let me go back to the slides again and try to wrap this up real quick. Okay, so we did the lab one. Yes, so Genie Rooms, AI BI, all that is under the same unified governance. So it's all in one place. The data is, by the way, am I sharing my screen or no?
You are not.
Okay, so that's what I thought. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, are we good now?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Jyotsna. So basically, yes. So as we're coming to the tail end of the session one, we covered lots of different things, but all the things that we've covered, because it's part of that same lakehouse architecture under the same Unity catalog rules, your data is in one place, it's secure. You know, everyone, it's not gonna. There's little risk of leaks if it's built properly. You still have to exercise judgment as those things are built and how do you actually set up your permissions. And it's all under one single governance model that you've set up. So, and we covered some of these SQL functions that you saw, but there's many other functions in there that we didn't cover. There's probably going to be more released to it. You can actually create your own functions in SQL as well using UDFs. So that's also part of the platform. So we did cover Databricks Assistant. You saw that, how helpful it is to be able to fix queries, to basically use natural language to actually build queries. We saw the AI generated documentation generation. So what is this table? You know, like the comment on the meta that creates the metadata for the table. So we saw that, and then we also saw what Genie is. So as you can see in a nutshell, Genie is designed to continuously learn. You saw it actually kept asking us questions to clarify how do you define a fiscal year. It understands the semantic layer. So we saw that, and that's what allows you to basically talk to to Genie, and it will understand which tables you're referring to, and it's able to do that through those comments, right? Through those things that also are generated by, and that's what makes that's what really defines the platform as a data intelligence platform. So with that said, I'm going to let you guys go here for a 5-minute break. Sorry, guys. I wish it could be longer. We'll come back here at 11 o'clock and kick off the second session.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This is oh yeah, we're gonna have to go skip this. Okay. So I need to go on mute, and why don't I do this? I'm gonna be right back, guys. All right, everybody. We're still on break, but for those that are still here, I wanted to mention something about the second session. As I mentioned earlier, the second session is going to be a little bit more technical. It will be a combination of, again, slides and hands-on stuff through the notebooks. It will also require, if you want to follow along and execute the code, it will require that you've gone through the prerequisites and have your own environment set up. And we kind of figured that not everyone is probably going to be able to go through it. So if you want to stick around, please do so. But those that really are more hands-on with building chatbots, evaluating chatbots, please continue to stay on. Even if you cannot follow with running the code, we will go through all the code. I'll screen share everything just like I did in the first session. So, but yeah, 2 more minutes, and we're gonna start that session. But those, if you need to peel off and feel like you've learned enough about the platform, the second session is only really intended for those that are actually hands-on with building GenAI solutions. Oh, by the way, I'm looking at the chat and I'm seeing how active everyone's been. This is incredible. This is great. Team, thank you so much for supporting the conversations here. Great questions. Okay, we are at the top of the hour. I think this is when we were supposed to start our second session. Let's go ahead and start. So we're going to actually start directly with the hands-on session. And here's why. It takes time to spin up those resources. It takes time to go through the code and run the code and run those labs. And I think it'd be best if we go through it now, run everything, and while it's running, we'll go through the slides, and then we're going to keep coming back in and out of the notebooks, if you will, to basically review some of the more specific topics, right? So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and I think my rooms are still open. So so please, again, use the handout to follow along and actually run everything. But we have Jyotsna, Scott, maybe, do I have my other teammates on there? Should I create more rooms here? Okay, so feel free to use room number 2 as well. We'll try to get somebody in there as well. Maybe Scott. Okay, so while we do that, let me go and join one of the rooms here. Hey, folks. We still have a few, I guess, quite a few folks here in the main room. Feel free to stay here, but if you do need help with, installing DB demos or anything like that, please join the breakout session.
So Dastan, are you going to just do a quick walkthrough of what they should be installing?
Yes, yes, we can do that. Let's go back in here. Okay, so basically, let me go back in here and create. I'm wondering if I can just do it in one of these install demos. Here we go. Okay, so basically, here's what we're gonna do. And is Scott in this room? Scott? Scott's probably in the room. Yes, so basically what we're going to be doing is I'm going to go ahead and kick off this demos. Yeah, we can just use this one. Start. So you do need an all-purpose cluster, and
you're not sharing your presentation.
I'm not sharing my screen. Okay, sorry. Here. There we go. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this part of the lab requires that you are able to set up the environment, and it's not hard, but it does require that you are able to install DB demos, and that's what we're doing here. So pip install DB demos. I know that some of you guys aren't I guess aren't allowed, or your security, your company policies don't allow you to do that. And if that's the case, we're just going to have to just follow along on what we're doing here. But generally speaking, what we want to do is we want to build out, we want to do pip install, create a notebook, and this is how it's done. You just basically go here, create a notebook, and then give it some name. I gave it install demos, and then add code section, type in pip install DB demos. Make sure that it's connected to a cluster that you've created in here, and then once it runs, it'll take some time to provision a cluster, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. It'll maybe take another minute or two to run the pip install command to install the libraries, and then we're going to basically do import DB demos, and then we're going to install LLM Rep chatbot. You can give it a catalog name and a schema name as well, but that's up to you. How do you want to call that? It doesn't have to be the same schema that you had before. It can be, but maybe starting from scratch would be easier, so you can actually see things better. So that's the code that we're going to be running. I've already had everything pre-run. So what it's going to do, it's going to install a folder, and then LLM chatbot. And into that folder, it's going to basically install subfolders with various sections of the lab that we're going to be going through. What I would like to do is not only install DB demos, but also, and here's where I'm going to rely probably on Jyotsna and Scott, on making sure that you press run all on some of these notebooks. I know it's probably going to be the advanced app, but which specific notebooks? Jyotsna, Scott, if you guys can help me out, that'd be great.
We just need to do a run all on the notebooks in the advanced app folder.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first
Okay.
one is for data preparation. The second one is for creating the RAG agent. And then the third one is for evaluation.
Yep. So yeah, please, once you install DB demos, you can just press on these hyperlinks. It will take you directly to those notebooks. Attach it to your cluster, which you've created. I'm gonna go ahead and start this cluster, confirm, and then press run all on all these notebooks. Right? Are we running all of them, or just some of them?
No, this one. Just start with this run all. And I'll join the breakout room 1. I think Scott is in the other one.
Okay, sounds good. So, how is everyone doing? Are you also running through these notebooks or just observing?
Till compute is starting.
Okay, yeah, same here. So this step does take a little bit of time. I'll give it another maybe 5 until 10:15 to make sure that everybody is able to execute the code, run all command. If you're done, please let me know.
Dastan?
Hey, Atif, how are you?
I'm doing good, sir. Thank you. What does this note means? This demo is advanced content. We strongly recommend going over the simple version first to learn the basics. So is there a link to that somewhere?
There is, but keep moving on with advanced. We're gonna do the advanced one.
All right.
Hi, I have a question. Hello.
Yes, go ahead, Lee.
Hi. So on the left side, I don't have a chain Python file, and I don't have a rag chain config yum file. Is those the output of those cells, or I'm missing something?
You so are you talking about this first cell right here?
No, I'm talking about the workspace. So underneath that you have O1, O2, O3, O4, right? And after that you have chain dot py
yeah.
rag yama file. Yeah.
Okay, so that's not supposed to happen because when you install GB demos, when you run this and you run this command, it should install the config and and everything because
Yeah, let me I redo it. Let me redo it.
yeah, go ahead and redo that. Have you guys been able to install DB demos?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. What about have you been able to run the advanced notebook data preparation?
It's running. It took a while. Once you have to go configure your endpoint and make sure your config file is set up, it takes it quite a while to run. So
Yeah. Okay, so that's expected. I'll give it another 3 minutes, and it's probably going to continue to run because sometimes it can take up to 20 minutes to install things, and that's okay. That's by design. That's why we're starting this section first, so we can go through the slides while stuff is still running in the background. I'm going to come off of video just for a second. Be right back. Okay. So let me see if the breakout rooms are still, if there's folks in the breakouts here. Okay. I'm gonna join those rooms. I'll be right back. Just check in on everybody else. Sorry, I was on mute, guys. Can y'all confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, let's go ahead and if you have your DB demos and your code running in the background, that's great. That's exactly where we want to be. If you weren't able to install DB demos or got stuck somewhere because of permissions and rules and you can't really import stuff, that's okay too, because what we're going to do is I'm going to screen share everything with you guys. It's not an issue. But what I would like to do is I'd like to get into some of these slides and some of the more technical content. Once our notebooks are finished running, we're going to be going back and forth between slides and notebooks for the next hour or so. Actually, a little bit more than that. But yeah, so that's the plan. So welcome back, everybody.
In progress.
Any questions? I thought I heard somebody ask a question. No? Okay. So basically, let's go ahead and start with understanding some of these GenAI architectural patterns. Let's see. I think my team is pinging me here. Let me check. Okay. Okay, so basically, what I would like to do, let's go ahead and start with kind of understanding this GenAI journey, right? So it's an iterative path from basic to advanced GI, so from left to right that you see here, right? So if you want more control and customization, that would require higher computing complexity as well, right? So it all starts with prompt engineering. Prompt engineering, it's simple, fast. It uses basically structured prompts to guide model responses. You do not need to modify the model. And it's the lowest complexity, out of all these GenAI options that we have. It's the one that has the least complexity. The next step here is RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation plus agents. So that is it enhances existing foundation models, LLMs, with some enterprise data and external sources. It basically ensures context aware, to your enterprise data awareness. It also tends to be more accurate. Also tends to lower costs than the next option, which is fine tuning. Fine tuning basically adapts an existing pre-trained foundation model, and then you basically leave out the additional layers and then add your own content, and then retrain the model on that. It requires a lot more kind of a data science domain expertise. It actually requires a lot of compute to do that as well. Not as much as pre-training a model from scratch, which is the last option. That's basically building a model from scratch, like a ChatGPT or DBRX. And that one has the highest customization, and it's also going to be most resource intensive. We are actually, as part of this workshop, we're not going to, this is the last time you'll hear me mentioning fine-tuning and pre-training, I think. There might be some references. At least the intent of all of our, for this specific workshop is going to be mostly on retrieval, augmented generation, and chains. So RAG and chains. We're going to start with prompt engineering because it's simpler. So so the key takeaway here is there are these different kinds of approaches, but you want to basically pick the right approach for your business needs, for the data that you have, and for the technical expertise that your company has. So let's go over prompt engineering. So prompt engineering, it tailors model behavior basically using structured prompts, right? It does not require additional data or training. And the definition is basically you craft the prompt and the model will provide a response. You may iterate back and forth to recraft the prompt in such a way that you get the model to respond a certain way. Like it's really, that's just really at the core of it. You're not changing anything. You're not retraining the model. You don't need to, there's a, the time to get going is almost zero. You literally just start interacting with whatever backend that you have for your model, and that's it. The only thing that you do change is the prompt. Now, the advantages is obviously it's quick to implement. There's no setups. You get instant results. But some things you should consider is you do need to understand the model behavior that you're using, right? So some models, not all models are equal. Some models are way too simplistic. Other models are built on general purpose stuff, so they're not going to understand maybe some acronyms. So you have to actually impute your information into the prompt as you interact with the data. So while useful, prompt engineering alone usually isn't enough for enterprise GenAI applications. Enterprises generally, they do need that data intelligence approach, not just general intelligence. And we'll define what that means, what data intelligence, what differentiates data intelligence from general intelligence a little bit later. But that leads to compound systems. And what are compound systems? So I'm going to start with this paper. So there's this research led by our CTO, Matej Zacharia. In this paper, he basically introduced the concept of compound AI systems, which is a shift from using standalone models to orchestrated various AI components, right? So now, why would you need that? So traditional models alone aren't enough because you need like an integrated system that combines multiple components in order to improve accuracy and flexibility. Remember earlier we talked about those three pillars: accuracy, I think it was security and governance. We'll be alluding back to that. So, but basically, you need to ensure that in order for things to go into production, you need to ensure that you are able to make those models so they don't hallucinate, they're secure, they don't expose private data. Otherwise, you just can't trust them, right? So with that said, let's dive in a little bit deeper into what a compound AI system is. So it's not a single monolithic model, right? Instead of it's just an orchestration of LLMs, sometimes external tools, maybe your enterprise data, and it doesn't mean structured data, but also unstructured data. As a matter of fact, the example that we will be going through is built on PDF documents, right? So definitely unstructured, right? And the key points is you have this traditional on the left, you got this traditional LLM approach, which uses an input prompt to generate a response. And it only relies on whatever the model is trained on, which also leads to hallucinations and basically outdated information. And that's very important because data changes all the time. Obviously, if you're an enterprise, your documentation may not change as quickly, but maybe your database systems are constantly evolving, right? You have new customers coming in, you have new orders coming in. There's always new stuff being added. So the challenge with the monolithic system is you don't have the contextual. It's like fixed in time. It only will understand whatever was trained on and nothing else. With compound AI systems, the LLMs are combined with vector search, and vector search is what allows you to keep adding new content, keep adding new data, and make that model more dynamic in ways it responds. It also allows you to add guardrails, also allows you to protect your data. And then as you add more of these agents, you can also add text to SQL, maybe other agents, maybe that call on databases, maybe that perform certain transformations, right? All of that makes the compound system more factual, more relevant, and the responses are going to be more contextual. So the key takeaway here is your traditional foundational LLMs, just right out of the box, they're not enough. For enterprise GenAI, you need external knowledge, which is your data, and you also need to be able to incorporate various technologies like vector databases, various SQL functions and APIs into that, right? That's what really makes the compound system more powerful and actually useful for enterprise applications. Let's go ahead. So when we talk about compound systems, it really kind of falls into this. It mostly falls into this RAG and plus agents architecture, basically what RAG allows you to do, it allows you to extend the capabilities of a traditional LLM. It still does not require training, so you don't need to allocate a lot of resources, a lot of money to actually train foundational models. You don't need a lot of data to do that, because usually training or pre-training models requires a lot of time and a lot of data. So none of those things are still needed. So it's still you still use an underlying off-the-shelf model, whether it's closed source or open source, but you're tacking on all these tools and agents to make it more make it behave in a way that's ready for production. So it combines GenAI models with your enterprise data, and it helps you stay up to date with various domain-specific knowledge. You can keep adding new data with vector databases. So we'll get into that a little bit later as well. So yes, the advantage is you have fresher knowledge, you have enhanced accuracy, you have new abilities that the model can do, such as making API calls or queries on a database. Now, one thing to consider, though, because you are using a foundational model, your prompts might get longer. And one thing that Sithram mentioned earlier in the call is, hey, why is why is there a limit on tables, right? The number of tables you actually put into Genie Room. Well, that's exactly what it means. Like, you have to limit, if your prompt becomes long, then the model isn't all that metadata that you pack into the prompt, so the foundational model can interact with it. Maybe you use vector search, you use similarity to pull in some relevant documents, you jam that into that prompt, and now that goes into the model. And if that prompt is longer in token sizes, that whatever model, that the underlying foundational model that you're using, it's going to error out. So that's part of the reason why some considerations that you have to keep in mind. There has to be some intelligence built around building out your RAG chain, maybe usage of those agents to optimize for and manage for those things, which we all will get into as well. So, and also, because they're iterative in nature, there might be additional compute costs, because sometimes you'll ping it, but you may have a AI judge system, which we're also going to get into a bit later, which will kick off the response or maybe change the underlying query. And there might be a little bit of back and forth that happens in the background before the actual result is the output of the model is served based on the input that came from the user, right? So there might be additional required compute because of that. So the key takeaway here: RAG and AI agents, they bridge the gap between static models and real-time enterprise intelligence. and which is basically what makes them more practical, scalable, and applicable for enterprise grade applications. So any questions here? Okay. I'm assuming there's questions in the chat. I just can't see them presenting.
Dastan, so these agents are simply some other LLMs or some other AI tools?
Yeah,
So how
yeah,
do
absolutely.
how do we connect? So for example, like let's say you have open chat GPT LLM available, and then there are some other, let's say DeepSeek as an example. How do I make sure, how do I say that okay, open chat GPT, you are not maybe good in, let's say, coding or mathematical reasons, then connect with DeepSeek and get the
Yes,
answers from there? How?
you're basically what you just did when you said, hey, you have a tool that is good at mathematical reasoning, so you need to orchestrate and ping that other model to get a response, because you yourself may be not good at mathematical reasoning, but DeepSeek is. So we're going to get into that. That's exactly what's going to happen, and then I'll show you later. So can we table this question, Atif, because we're
Sure.
definitely going to get into that.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Any other questions that are maybe more conceptual? Okay, let's just move on here. So AI agents operate at different levels of capability. So you have your simple retrieval models, to all the way like to multi-agent orchestration, something that I sort of kind of alluded to when I talked to Atif about mathematical reasoning, all that stuff. So that's multi-agent. Mosaic AI supports these evolving patterns, scaling complexity, just depending on your needs, right? So let's go with kind of describe what these things are, right? So agent with agent with documents, which is basically RAG-based retrieval. So it's probably the simpler of, that's where things start, right? So it extracts unstructured, maybe PDFs, emails, documents, that kind of stuff, right? It's ideal for knowledge retrieval and summarization, but that's where things start. Now things become a little bit more, you start tacking on tools. You have agents with tables. So maybe it starts incorporating text to SQL. That's going to be similar to what Genie does, right? Basically, you have natural language that is converted to some SQL query that understands some semantic layer. And then because it understands the semantic layer, it's able to actually query a certain database, knows exactly how to parameterize that query so it doesn't error out, right? So that's a little bit more complicated, but it's still not the end, right? And then number 3 is agents with multiple tools and data sources, right? This is the one where you can actually start incorporating dynamically integrated APIs. So you can have a model that's constantly up and running in real time, right? You have a vector search attached to it, and you can keep adding APIs to it. You can keep adding more functionality to it. And that same model is going to continue to become smarter and smarter, right? So that expands the agility of an ability to retrieve and process and generate insights. That's number 3. And then when we get to multi-agent, and that's when agents communicate and delegate tasks amongst themselves. So this is a generally more complex workflow. It does require kind of more expertise to actually orchestrate all those agents, how to collaborate. We're going to get into all those things. At least we're going to show you the tools on how to build and kind of go through these common design patterns based on the tools that we're going to show you. So all those things are supported by the Databricks Data Intelligence platform. So
Dastan, I have a quick question here, conceptual question. Maybe you'll cover it in the detail, but to orchestrate it, is there like a separate orchestrator as well that we will be talking about?
So when it comes to orchestration, there is LangChain there's different kinds of open source frameworks that can be used. LangChain is great for chaining things. You have various other open source software. Again, we're really big into using existing OpenStack technologies. You can use that. I can, in terms of having that in-depth expertise, what it is, it might be a topic that we need to discuss separately. But maybe my team can also pitch in here. Do you, Jyotsna or Scott, do you guys want to take this up in more detail?
Yes, We support others like LangGraph, Llama Index, any chain or orchestration tool that can be defined as an ML flow object that we can support.
Thank you.
Okay, next slide. Okay, so Mosaic AI accelerates the development, deployment, and governance of these enterprise-ready AI agents. Now, what are these key pillars, right? We did talk about the other key pillars that are, accuracy, safety. These are going to be somewhat similar to it. So governance is important. We need to ensure that AI and your AI and data is compliant. We want to make sure that there is no risk to privacy of your data. There's no risk to your reputation of your company. We want to also have production quality. So we want models that have an evaluation framework built in, that have monitoring built in. So your model is not drifting from what it's supposed to be doing, right? And that's really kind of what really adds that high-performing AI system, right? Is that ability to be able to actually control and monitor how your model performs. And then obviously when it comes to iterating and improving those models, you do need to have the tool in place or the platform in place and the tools in place so you can actually iterate and deploy these things as quickly as possible. So Mosaic AI enables that secure, scalable, and production-ready AI agents. Next slide here is basically, as I mentioned earlier, it is an iterative approach. So you do move from basic to more advanced GenAI technical applications. As I said, we're not going to get into the second half with fine-tuning and pre-training. But techniques, they're not mutually exclusive, right? RAG and agents still rely on prompt engineering. I mean, they're basically they use the same foundation model, right? Fine-tuning, you can also fine-tune stuff and still use RAG and prompting with some of the more fine-tuned models. So they're not mutually exclusive. But what is important is you do have to start with establishing a certain baseline. Maybe establish, as you establish a baseline, use evaluation framework to make sure that the results are in compliance with what whatever that baseline, whatever that domain specific focus for that model is. And then based on that, you have to kind of choose your technique, right? Do we which path is more appropriate to you? So it is a balance. You kind of have to balance complexity versus efficiency, maybe costs, and depending on how you kind of go through that iterative process, that's how you can actually land on which solution is more important. Maybe like when it comes to knowledge, extracting knowledge, summarizing data, maybe something like a simple prompt engineering is even more appropriate. Whereas if you have a chatbot that is supposed to guide people onto, with existing rebate programs that you have, right? That might require retrieval augmented generation with tools because you want to be able to actually pull in customer data in order to provide that response. So GenAI does present key challenges. And this is exactly what we mentioned earlier in the first section of the presentation. You got their accuracy, safety, and governance. So models, they need to have fresh data. They need to have domain-specific data. The outputs have to be safe and explainable. And then when it comes to governance, your models need to be compliant and secure, right? And all that, obviously, also cost is always important, right? So you have to also make sure that you're able to control your costs. So with Mosaic AI, with Databricks data intelligence platform, all these things are available to you. We are able to actually using RAG and vector search and some of these open source frameworks that Scott mentioned, LangGraph, LangChain, we can enhance accuracy of the models by choosing the right architecture. We can improve safety by doing the same. And then also, when it comes to governance, because everything is hosted on the Databricks platform, you can actually apply the same governance posture across those new GenAI tooling and applications that you might be developing, right? So compound AI systems, they reduce complexity inside, to some extent. They also enhance explainability, which we'll see as we go through the labs. You'll be able to actually see what that chain looks like. You'll be able to actually evaluate it. You'll be able to actually provide automated ways to actually use LLM judges to determine which response is compliant and which one is not. And then you can actually take that feedback and feed it back and retrain the model. So your system is dynamic and is constantly learning and improving itself. So with that said, let's dive into kind of this view I'm going to build this out a little bit more to explain the data intelligence platform, some of the components that we have here. So so compound AI systems are designed to address challenges, the accuracy, safety, governance, right? But in addition to that, we need to take a closer look at the, what does that actually mean? How do, what are some of the foundational architectural patterns that also need to be involved, right? So the foundation is obviously still built on the open data lake format. So your raw data is gonna, whether your logs, text, images, video, they're all going to be coming in some raw format, right? And they all need to be stored somewhere in the cloud, right? And they all need to be, optimized in order for, performance and cost. But they also, you need to be able to store them securely, so it doesn't end up in the wrong hands. So that's why you have this Unity catalog to provide that that security. And Unity catalog doesn't only apply to the data itself. As we mentioned earlier, it does apply to your models, to your vector search, so embeddings, to your feature stores. And that's basically what allows you to be compliant in security. But not only that, you do have Databricks IQ, which is the intelligence platform, right, that understands the semantics. And now you have capabilities such as Genie and dashboards that allow non-technical users to interact with the platform, right, to actually build queries faster, become more productive, more efficient. So key takeaways here is Databricks integrates data, governance, and AI into a single intelligence-driven platform, ensuring enterprises can build secure, optimized, and production-ready AI applications, and all of that at scale. So we're going to get into just a little bit into what prompt engineering means. I feel like everybody's already familiar with ChatGPT and some of these things that I feel like maybe we're not going to, maybe a lot of that stuff we're going to say here is going to be, everything that you know, right? But for those that, just so you have contextual understanding for the next sections, I just want to cover it, right? So the fundamental technique is prompt engineering. It's the simplest way to guide a model to elicit a certain response that you want, right? And so basically, user provides a query, the model generates a response, and based on the response, you can augment your query so you can actually get it to behave how you want it to behave. Again, it's few-shot learning, meaning that you don't actually need to train anything. You just interact with the model, and through that iterative process, you get it to perform a certain way. The platform. So what we're going to show you is a demo pretty soon on prompt engineering tools. You can actually have it's model agnostic. You can select multiple different models. You can prompt it with the same prompt and actually see how different models respond. And with that said, let me go to the next slide, and then we're going to get into the AI Playground. So AI Playground provides that interactive way to compare different GenAI models. You can fine-tune your prompts to optimize your responses. You can see that side-by-side comparison, which we're going to show. We're going to experiment with prompts. So let's get into our platform. So hands-on Playground. Okay. I'm just going to use this tab because I think we're done with it. Again, we are still using the same handout. So please go to Databricks Playground here. Everything that I'm going to be doing is going to be following, at least doing my best to follow everything that is on here. So let's go ahead and go into here, and we're going to go to Playground. So here in the Playground, give me a moment. I'm going to adjust my window a little bit. Okay, so let's go ahead and press this button, add endpoint. So we're going to do that. And then what we're going to do, and I'm already probably not following the instructions properly here. Give me a second for that.
Hey, Dastan, sorry to interrupt. Can you zoom in into your screen a little bit?
Yes, I can.
Very small for us. Thank you.
Okay, how about this? Is it better?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, yep. Let's go, let's see. I want to make sure that I'm not going off script here. Okay, so we clicked on playground. We clicked on plus sign. Oh, good. I did follow everything properly. So now we're going to go ahead and select our model, right? So here we have Llama instruct. Let's go ahead and I think the first one it wants us to select DBRX instruct. So we're going to select this one. Use endpoint. We're going to go here and we're going to use. Let's see, what do we have there? Meta. I think this is good. We'll just leave this as is. We press the sync button in there, and let's go ahead and type in a prompt. What is Databricks? So now you can see how different models respond to the same prompt, right? You can see, looks like Meta Llama 3.3 on the right here. It's slower, but it's more comprehensive. It's still going. Wow. And then also both, we have AI judges built in, so both are safe and relevant. And we'll dive into what this all means a little bit later. But I want to make sure that we follow the instructions here, because I feel like if I go off script, then I may have to repeat myself multiple times. So what is Databricks? We did that. Now we can do write Python code. Sure, let's do that. Let's see, what is that Python code? Write Python code to generate the first 100 prime numbers. I'm just going to copy and paste that into our prompt. So, yep, again, same is true. DBRX is faster. Meta Llama 3.3 is slower, but more comprehensive. Probably produce same result. It's a relatively simple prompt. So basically, this is what allows you to see what prompt engineering would look like, right? You can change your prompts to maybe have it respond differently, but that's the idea. Do we have any questions on this? Maybe Scott, am I missing anything? Jyotsna, feel free to pitch in.
What's the some of the use cases for wanting to compare like this?
Yeah, so the use cases, one is, let's say that you when you select the model, you can actually figure out, you have your pay per token models. You can figure out how much things would cost. For example, you can build an external model, maybe that's been trained by your other team, and you want to be able to test responses. It could be also to incorporate human in the loop, so for testing applications. So let's say that before you put some model that your team has trained into production, you want to be able to interact with raw prompts into that foundational model. There might be other use cases as well. Scott, Jyotsna, if you guys want to pitch in, but that's kind of what comes into my mind now.
I have a question. So in the playground, you have at least 4 models, like open source. Do you have a more open source model to play with?
I'm going to let my team take that one, but the short answer is yes.
So just to add to that or answer that question, as Databricks, we are model agnostic. So what that means is that in case you want to use any of the proprietary models, either it is from Bedrock or Gemini or GPT series of models or Anthropic, we let you do that through what we call as external model endpoints or through our AI gateway. But in case you want to use any of the foundation models, you could do that as well. Any of the open source models are, you can do that. And these are the ones which are available, but in case you want to add any one of your own, you could do that as well.
So
what?
The usefulness of the playground would be to do this side-by-side evaluation of 2 different models on the same kinds of problems you want to be able to ask, and to give some light interactive capability of evaluating given prompts, because you can tweak the prompts by model or to use the same prompt with 2 different models. There are more formal frameworks available to you for real prompt engineering. both in the evaluation framework and with tools like DSPy. But here's where you can just do some light experimentation and also compare some of the deployment options that Dastan showed you.
Yeah. And I wanted to show something, and this is good thing to notice. When I use this tab whenever I started going to this playground, and I realized that this is my personal one, the one that was supposed to be super easy to use, and but and that's why I didn't give us an option for custom models. And I was like, why is it not showing up there? Because I was in a different environment. But if you actually go to the environment that's actually built for this chatbot, and you go to custom, you can actually see the model that we built out. So you should be able to see, if you ran your run all in your commands, you should see custom agents here as well. So so you can connect external models, custom agents, but that's done through a different kind of workflow, if you will.
Sure. Yeah, quick question. So there are lots of like customized models or quantized models in the Hugging Face community. Like, is there a way to, I mean, not using the notebook, but just here to download the model weights and play, or no, you have to use a model weights. Oh, sorry, you have to use a notebook to download and play. Thank you.
I'll let my team take that one. I personally have little experience with Hugging Face models, but
right now, if you wanted to deploy an arbitrary model off of Hugging Face, you would want to use a notebook to download that, wrap it in MLflow, and deploy it as a custom agent or custom endpoint rather. That said, I believe we actually do have a couple of Llama quantized models available on the marketplace.
Correct. And in system.ai in the Unity catalog as well.
Yep.
So you can create a provision throughput endpoint using those without having to go through the whole cycle of Hugging Face and all of that. And also the endpoints which are created for the ones which are available inside Databricks, they are very, very optimized. So the out of the box performance that you would probably get from any of those versions of Llama, if you compare that with the one which is available through Databricks, there would be a marked difference in that.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I think this is we're pretty much done with the playground here. Let's go ahead and move on to our slide. Okay, so this is we're going to talk about AI model serving here. So once you've selected a once you've selected and fine-tuned your AI models, the next step is to basically serve them, right? So you can do that efficiently. This is where Mosaic AI model serving comes in. You can provide a unified way to deploy those and manage those models and govern them all as part of your AI stack, right? So there are three types of models that are supported, and I think Jyotsna kind of alluded to that during just now. You can deploy your own models as a REST API using MLflow with support for serverless compute, for feature store and vector search, and then also you can create, you can deploy foundation models. You have access to pre-curated models such as from Meta, Databricks, and other simple APIs. So you don't need to manage your serving infrastructure for that. And you can also have external models. So third-party models like OpenAI, Anthropic, AI21, and those can be served up with through the gateway, which also still will give you that governance and monitoring layer onto those external models, including logging as well. So AI Gateway, this is another critical component of model serving, is it ensures that your AI models are secure, observable, and are optimized as well. It provides governance and control over custom foundation and external models. And so some of the key features of AI Gateway is you can actually track usage. There's some observability that's been built in, gives you some insights into how those models are being used. You're able to actually also log your payloads and also set up guardrails with AI Gateway. You can perform A/B testing of different models, so you can actually route your traffic based on what goes in next into production, for example. You can create rate limiting options to control costs, maybe give a little bit more fine-grained permission controls. And then you can also streamline your credential management as well. So people will have access, to certain models, but not others, right? If that's necessary as well. As you know, different models, especially those external models, they all have different pricing points. Some are less expensive, some are more expensive. So those are just a few use cases that AI Gateway can tackle. And why this matters is because it helps you optimize cost and performance. It gives you secure deployment of those third-party models. And then when it comes to governance, it gives you a centralized control plane of all of those AI workloads. So we did cover a few different, architectures. Now we're just going to focus more on RAG, in more detail, right? So RAG extends the capabilities of these foundational LLMs by integrating external knowledge. So it ensures, so through RAG, you're able to get your models to be more accurate, more relevant, more up-to-date, more secure. And then how do agents fit into this whole thing? So agents are basically orchestrators. So they leverage tools for data retrieval. So like, for example, text-to-SQL could be a data retrieval tool. And they also give you that dynamic decision-making just beyond simple prompt engineering, right? You can actually build build out your chain and incorporate your agents such that there's some iteration depending on the output, right? Especially when you start incorporating judges, some of these automated judges, and which we'll also get into. Now, again, all of that is for the sole purpose of improving your response accuracy. You want to be able to pull in real-time data, for example. You want to reduce hallucinations, so your responses are fact-based. And you also want to be able to support some sort of automation by having those APIs, that the model can hit. So now let's dive into what does that look like in practice. So when with RAG, you're not retraining models, but you're just augmenting them with specific domain knowledge, and with data that is part of your enterprise. And again, the benefits is you have custom knowledge, you have real-time support for real-time data, but you're also reducing risk of hallucination because now you're in that prompt, you're providing that relevant information to the model. You also add new capabilities through agents with APIs, maybe running some Python code. You can basically run functions, with some of these API calls. And you can also create multi-step reasoning. And this is where it's part of that iterative process. When you start incorporating judges, effectively, that's what happens is you have this multi-step reasoning. And over time, you can automate that whole RAG agent AI compound system such that it becomes more intelligent as you use it, because then you can incorporate workflows where the outputs of those models are fed back into retraining, for example, or you want to be able to, not retraining in the traditional sense, but retraining in terms of setting more guardrails through those agents again. So anyway, so the key takeaway here is RAG and agents help you transition from this general intelligence more towards data intelligence, which is optimized for enterprises. So, and that's exactly why enterprises can use generative AI as part of their enterprise solutions. Anything off the shelf general intelligence, that's not necessarily appropriate for enterprises. With that said, we're going to now dive into a little bit more into these discussions on building RAGs. What I would like to do, actually, let me pause here and make sure that we address some questions, because we did cover a lot of material here. Any questions in the chat window?
I think they're mostly addressed.
Okay, excellent. So now that we've introduced RAG and agents, let's actually see how RAG chain works. And Atif, I think this is going to be something that will be interesting for you because you asked for it a little bit earlier. So you have 3 steps, right? You have retrieve, augment, and generate. So in retrieve step, you have the LLM that retrieves relevant content from enterprise data. And usually at this stage, you have things such as vector databases, right? And I'll explain what vector databases are. Then you have the augment step is once you retrieve that augmented data, you take that original user query, you give that additional context that your vector search was able to serve up, right? And then you put that all together in the same to enrich that original prompt, right? So that's how you augment your original prompt. So you have your response to question based on relevant docs, right? And then you provide that information there. And then generate is the response where the LM processes that fully augmented prompt and then uses its own reasoning to give you let's say the instructions, right? Like how do you actually connect to let's say the question is a Spark Connect client translates data frame, right? So and the question is, what is Spark Connect, right? So then you can actually have something that was augmented through vector search based on documentation for Spark, puts that in there, puts it in the prompt. The LLM process that augmented prompt uses reasoning to give you that relevant response. And then, so that's kind of the what RAG looks like. And the key component of that, as we said, was vector search. That's what allows us to actually retrieve relevant data. So let's get into that. So what is a vector database? A vector database basically stores your unstructured data, whether it be text, images, metadata, right? In some kind of embedding space that's retrievable, right? So in this plot, we have this two-dimensional vector space. Most vector databases is going to be multidimensional, but it's just a great illustration of how similar, meaning how close things are, right? So you can see that van and car are close to one another, dog and puppy are close to one another, right? And then obviously you got some arbitrary dimensions on what attribute those things might be familiar. And as I said, most vector databases are going to be multidimensional, so you can actually imagine that, hey, maybe dog and puppy are similar across these two arbitrary dimensions, but they're going to be somewhat opposing, right? Maybe on the age dimension, right? If there is that, some vector that represents that. So, so again, it's what vector databases are. It allows you to effectively take your raw input, map it into some embedding space. That way, you can use similarity search to find documents that are similar to one another. Then there's this concept called vector index. You can use those similar dots in that multidimensional space to retract back the index of the original documents. And that's what will get served up back into that augmentation of the prompt. So, so the key takeaway is that they're fast, they're context aware. You can actually update and keep them updated in real time. It gives you relevant data that's enterprise specific. So I know there's a lot that we covered here, and for those that don't have a data science background, that might be a little bit hard to understand. So please ask any questions, and hopefully I and the team here can help you understand certain things here. Any questions? Awesome. Looks like we got a very, very technical crowd, which is great.
I have a question though.
Sure.
If we have digital vector database, but there's a new concept of GraphDB, do you have something, on that side of it, like instead of vector, if you want to use a graph?
Ooh, it would probably have to be an agent because you would have to basically create an API endpoint for whatever that GraphDB is. Let's say you have some centrality nodes and some, it would have to be will be incorporated as an agent, because what a vector database is, it's a mapping, it's tabular mapping. So you take some PDF document, and we'll go through the example. You chunk that data. You take those chunks, you throw it into some compute that transforms those chunks into embeddings, and then you have a table with those embeddings. So it works fundamentally very different from what graph databases would do. So I would imagine you can only incorporate that through some kind of agent API.
Yeah, my question is like, vector DB at certain point does provide like a good results in specifically in RAG-based applications. So now the little bit of extension of a RAG-based application is like graph-based RAG. a graph DB-based RAG, where entity and relationship. Now you have a relationship between dog and puppy, where we can kind of looking at from here, from KNN and Bayes algorithm, that they have a certain kind of relationship, but it is not connected. So when we're getting into a graph DB, there is a connection between a dog and a puppy, and maybe some human, or maybe some other kind, like maybe a wolf could be more closer to it. So now when we're pulling some kind of information out, GraphDB is supposed to have a better result, or maybe those queries get a better result as compared to the vector DB.
Yeah, I can add something to that. And Jyotsna has already put an excellent resource in the chat.
Yeah.
The vector search that we have is not directly supporting graph scenarios, but we have worked with customers on graph RAG implementations. We do have patterns for that, so we can certainly talk to you about your specific case and help you with that.
Sure, Scott. We'll connect later. Thank you. Bye.
Sounds great.
Yeah, take a look at this resource which I have posted. So we do provide integration with Neo4j and these graph rack kind of implementations.
Excellent. Wow. Great. Thank you. Okay, next slide. So now that we've covered vector databases, let's dive into specifically Databricks vector search and how it enhances retrieval and generation. So, here are the key points, right? So it's built on Unity Catalog. So you have governance that's already built in. All data and AI are governed by Unity Catalog. So that gives you obviously security, access controls, data lineage, tracking, all sorts of stuff like that. How it works. It basically starts with a source table that holds that unstructured data, and then I kind of described it. Then generates embeddings into a separate table, and then you have basically models that can be pre-built, like GTE, BGE, that can be available through Databricks model serving. Or I think part of our example is we actually have a custom self-managed, so like kind of a bring your own embeddings. So you can actually create a separate table that will hold your own, that will hold your that will use your own embedder, if you will, right? Embedding model that will basically create that table and keep that table updated. And then for the rest of in terms of using the RAG application, you don't have to actually use compute or serverless compute in our case, right? For these vector search endpoints. So basically, so it's scalable. It gives you that API-based, similarity search, super low latency, great for these types of applications where you can incorporate LangChain, Llama Index, where there's maybe some back and forth that happens on the back end. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I want to make sure that I didn't miss anything here, but I think we got it. Yeah, I should have built out the slide. Anyway, so vector search does enable RAG to retrieve data fast, and it is flexible, and it's also because of its low latency and it's how it's just built for scale. You can use it for production applications. Okay, let's see. So agents dynamically call tools. So let's kind of dive in a little bit into here. So these tools can be SQL, like text to SQL. They can be various APIs, maybe Python code, and all of these things, they enhance your responses for your RAG system. So like, for example, like let's say how this works, right? You have repeat yesterday's order, right? So the agent selects a tool, so it selects SQL lookup, and then it makes a call to execute some function. It fetches the order details, and then it generates a response. Order is placed, and see details at, right? So this what allows for this kind of real-time decision making with an API and a combination of database. So that kind of gives more flexibility to your RAG applications. Here's just another kind of a deeper view, and this is kind of very similar how you described it, right? So this is kind of how the reasoning process happens, right? The user comes in and says, "Hey, can you help me return my last order?" Right? Then you basically have a chain that tells it exactly how to think about it. So you have the reasoning step and says, "Hey, understand the user's intent," and it's basically return my last order, right? It retrieves the information, so it basically looks up the past orders and returns those policy documents, how the returns are done. Then you ask it to make a decision, so confirm that the order meets return criteria, like maybe there's certain dates, if the return is asked after 30 days when the product was purchased. So it makes that decision, and then it takes an action on the return policy, and then makes that final response and tells, done, here's your shipping label. So that's kind of a very simple example of what an agent framework, how it's basically set up to think through on the back end. Here's kind of another example on function calling. Copilot. So the agent is central to handling, so you got different kinds of data sources. Maybe you have sales leads, sales data, Google reviews, social media stuff, right? So it needs to make a decision, right? So like, for example, you ask some question, it needs to go and say, hey, I have these tools available to me. So can I look at my tools and what they do and make a decision about which tool is the most appropriate one for the right job? And then selects the tool, executes that tool, puts that into a prompt, generates an answer, and off we go. So again, two very, very different examples, but similar examples, right? On just how those things are orchestrated. Before you know what, let me go back to the previous slide. And how are we doing on time here? 11:10. I do have to rush, guys. So if there's any questions, are they? Would you please? I'll pause here for just a little bit because this is an important concept. Just to make sure that we discuss this, but we do have to kind of rush a little bit, given that it's already 11:10. We got 20 minutes left.
Could you take it to the next slide?
Sure. Would you like me here? Next slide. Let's just move on then. Okay. So let's talk about the framework for production, which iteratively incorporates LLM judges, and this is something that's where it's such an important topic, and that's what gives you that trust to actually put models into production. It's very important that we cover that, and I think we have enough time to cover it. So basically, it starts with defining a new version. So every iteration starts by defining a new version of the RAG chain, or RAG data pipeline, right? And that version is then fed with structured and unstructured data from various sources. So then you collect feedback and logs, that's the second stage. So user interacts with the system and their feedback is captured. And then you have a LLM judge mechanism, which is used to evaluate the log response and log responses automatically. Then you have, you perform assessment during those using that LLM and the user feedback. So you can incorporate both. You have, some assessments that maybe can be incorporate targets like for accuracy, maybe cost, maybe latency. So you can incorporate, and for accuracy, you can measure against some ground truth answers, for example, right? That can be built in. Then you have the step where the system, whether it meets accuracy or cost latency targets, and then whatever is the result of that, then it gets deployed and then monitored, right? So if targets aren't met or the model is inefficient, then the cycle continues to iterate. And we're going to get into all of that in the next slides and explain how it all works during the lab. But that's basically kind of the overall structure. You have a single platform for data ingestion, iteration, and deployment. You have the quality, data control, data quality, and evaluation, and the feedback loops all built into the system. And that gives you that framework that basically can support some proprietary kind of approaches of how you would want that model to respond. Not unlike some open source models that will be provided by those vendors, right? They can just kind of not give you any of those options. So you can actually customize how those things respond and how that RAG agent behaves. So that ensures that your AI agent-based systems are evolving through continuously. The results are monitored. There's evaluation, iteration built in, and that's how we believe you take an agent system and you make it scalable and production grade. So let's talk about this framework, right? We have the agent framework and we have the agent evaluation, right? How these two things work together. They obviously can be used separately, But in our example, we're going to be talking about the tooling that we provide, how those things can work together. So agent framework is for developing those models. It's a set of tools that allow you to manage the full life cycle of agents and RAGs. We have an AI cookbook. The links will be provided to you that gives you, I mean, the whole demo, everything that you see here is based on AI cookbook, so it will be available to you. It's public right now. The links will be provided to you. That gives you best practices and some code examples on how to actually build out these RAG agents, AI systems. It includes the platform has already ML flow chain logging built in, so you can actually use tracking, use LangChain to kind of or maybe have some custom Python chains, right? You can actually dig into each response and actually understand how the model responds to different kinds of queries and see if those need to be corrected. You can parameterize agents as well, so allowing different kind of configurations, different kind of behavior. Serve those agents behind API endpoints, manage credentials, who has access to them, who doesn't. And then when it comes to the second part, which is agent evaluation, that's what it gives you, that quality assurance, right? These are a set of tools for automated and human incorporated or human in the loop evaluation of those RAG systems, right? So it does have ML flow tracing for debugging, optimizing those AI workflows. You have inference tables that actually capture the interaction with the model endpoints. You can actually see what response came in, how the model responded, what does that chain look like, what does that trace look like. We also have a review app that's built in, and we have some automated LLM judges that are also built in part of the platform. So, again, the agent framework helps you build and deploy AI agents efficiently, and then the agent evaluation tools is what ensures quality, accuracy, and explainability of those agents. So now we're going to get into the hands-on session and build a RAG chatbot. Let's go into, I think, this window. Nope, that's the playground. Okay, so and this is I'm going to go through this real quick. All I'm going to do is run all and go through these notebooks, stop at certain points to discuss them, allow my team to also pitch in and add more context. Maybe we'll stop and discuss questions, but we only have 15 minutes left to the session, so I may have to go a little bit quicker, but we can set up meetings to kind of discuss things, dive deeper later. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yes. Am I on mute now? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
We can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So we are going to go with, I believe this notebook should have run for you, right? Because we started this notebook way in the beginning. It should have completed running. As a matter of fact, your cluster probably already turned off. So you might as well want to, if you want to, you can turn it on. But as long as it produced the outputs for these cells, we don't have to run it. So let's just kind of go through this example. So what we did here is first we ingested the data. And that data came from this Databricks resource page. We basically took some websites. We used PDF, PyPDF platform, PyPDF library to create PDFs, load them into a volume, use the vector search and vector index to basically index that data. And by the way, I know I'm flying through it, but I'm just kind of explaining the whole process that's basically happening here, right? And that's what you see. You have the PDFs, you have them loaded as raw, documents. We clean them up, and then we put them into vector search index. So that's kind of what we did here. And that notebook basically kind of goes through this thing. Now we're going to kind of go through this code. So volumes, we're using volumes to store our actual PDFs. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe use this tab. You know what? Let me open up a new tab. Go to catalog, make a new tab. I'm going to put this here. So I can show you what that volume looks like, right? So let's see, did we use Scott's? I think Scott, we used your catalog. GenAI Workshop. volumes. So here we have this volume Databricks documentation, right? So as you can see, there's this folder. It's got a bunch of PDFs, right? And those PDFs came from, from basically our documentation. That's actually HTML. So, so we put those things into a volume. Then we took out those PDFs. Here's kind of where they are. You can actually see where they're stored on this table in the volume there. I guess I could have just showed it here to you guys, not inside the catalog. And then we basically use our structured streaming or autoloader to basically read those PDFs in a binary format and write that data into a data frame. And that's basically what you see here. We read this file. Here's the binary for it. Then we extracted those binaries using PyPDF reader. We extracted those PDFs as binaries, chunked them, parsed them, and then basically stored them in here. So, and this is just an example of what's in those documents as a PDF. This is what I think I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. We're just doing text splitting. We're splitting sentences, creating a pandas UDF. So this is basically what allows us to distribute the function to split the PDF document and parse it into a separate table, but in a distributed fashion. So each worker node is actually taking that PDF document and doing it in a horizontal distributively, so it's faster. And then we take those PDF documents and we use GT embeddings foundation model, and we effectively create our embeddings. So this is an example of what that embedding looks like. I believe there's these are the embeddings for the endpoint. Here's the input. What is Apache Spark? So Apache Spark in the embedding space, that's what it looks like. Obviously, we can't read it, but machines are really good at reading this stuff. Let's keep going. So what we did here is we created a table to store our PDF documents. This is the chunks that we've talked about. Again, sorry for getting a little ahead of myself here. Created a bunch of interim tables to store our content, store our chunks, map those embeddings to the original documents. That way, whenever you actually are using the RAG, there is transparency. And when you pull in a similar document, it knows how to reference back to its original index document. So, and that's what you see here is this is the original URL. This is the content. Further on, you have the embeddings. With that said, I think we're pretty much done with this notebook. It just gives you a little bit more examples of of setting up the actual vector search endpoint. But everything should be set up on your end if you ran through this notebook. So you should be able to see all the stuff in there. Any questions here? Because this whole notebook is just around getting the data prepared.
Yes, I have a question. What happens if the PDF contains structured and unstructured data? I mean, enable the index and the embeddings to keep to maintain, let's say, the relationship between into tables?
Yes. So the answer to that is if you have structured data, you might want to use an agent to actually use some kind of text to SQL or something like that to query that data and understand the data. Because usually when you have structured and unstructured data, you would need some kind of a already like a compound system that is able to parse those things. We're talking about here building that system that gives you a little bit more knobs how to make it like, for example, if you use ChatGPT, you can put an image, you can write a prompt, you can put some table, it won't understand it all, right? But it does all that parsing in the end, and that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to build that compound AI system that actually parses things out into various agents and retrievers and everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So do we need to add steps like, I don't know, use some document intelligence to recognize first tables and then, okay.
Yeah. So are you referring to to PDF documents, for instance, that contain
Yeah,
information in a structured format like a table or maybe a form.
yeah,
And
you know,
that,
for example,
yep,
in the
in
financial
those
document.
cases, right. In those cases, you just need to approach the chunking strategy more systematically, understanding what kind of document content you have, and you may need different OCR tools that can recognize those formats and chunk those documents in a way that preserves the context. You may want to make sure you're getting the entire table or rows of a table with headings, forms preserving key value pairs, that kind of thing. And there are tools, even in LangChain itself, that can help you get that information out in an intelligent way. Now, in a lot of examples that you'll see, we'll take a naive chunking strategy where we're just doing it by token length. But there are other document parsing tools for PDFs and so forth that can do things more semantically like that.
So,
Okay.
Scott
Quick
and
question.
Dastan, it looks like that these PDFs have only text data. What if there are images as well encountered? So how it is being handled, or there are
It's
no image?
it's the same scenario. If you know you have images embedded in a document and you want to make use of the information that's in those images, then you would approach that as part of your chunking strategy, your parsing strategy. There are tools that can recognize there's an image embedded. Even you could take that image, extract it from the document, pass it to another service that actually interprets what's in that image, and then perhaps put text as a caption or something that explains the image in your chunking. So you could search based on that image.
So guys, I'm gonna have to
I don't want to
try
take
to
up
get
too
back
much more
to
time.
yeah, because it's already 11:26. We lost 15 minutes in the very beginning. We did need to take a break because 3.5 hours without a break is impossible. I did kind of anticipate, because of all these challenges, that we may not get through all the content. We don't really have a lot left here, but I may have to skip things here. So what I'll do is, since you have all the instructions to run the code, we're not going to go through the code. We're just going to go through what is the output. What do we actually see? That way you can actually see the value of what the platform gives you and what the platform can enable to do. So again, I'm just gonna quickly show you what those notebooks will be. You can run them yourself, right, in your own free time. But basically, click run all on all these notebooks. As you do that, what it's gonna spin up is it's gonna give you, like for example here, it's gonna give you view experiment app. You can see the demos, and I'm gonna click on these things so you can actually see what that looks like. So you can have these two models. You can actually click on that and see what those responses are like. You can see the traces that are associated. Again, we're using LangGraph. Evaluation results. That's what I meant to see. Maybe, hold on a second. Maybe I clicked on the wrong thing here. I think this is not the right endpoint. Okay.
What did you want to do, Dastan?
I
Open
wanted, yeah, I wanted to see the evaluation results, but I'm not seeing them anymore. Okay.
Go. Yeah, here you have it.
Yeah, I'll just pull it up from another thing that I ran. So basically, we only have a couple of minutes left. I wanted to show you what some of these automated evaluation judges that we have, right? So effectively, you can actually build your judges, custom ones. We also have some built-in ones that you can use. And as you set up your machine learning endpoint for your GenAI application, those judges can basically be incorporated into that interaction pattern, right? And you can actually see, as various prompts come in, you can actually see, hey, overall assessment is a fail. Why? Well, let's see details, right? It's not accurate. Why is it not accurate, right? You can see the response. You can see what the traces look like. We can see the original document that it's referencing. So you can basically, as an individual, it's all presented to you in a human readable format, right? There is no embeddings here. It's just a regular document. You can go click on this document and you can actually see, hey, here's what the expected output is, and this is what the actual output was, right? So clear. So it's this evaluation tool gives you some like detail assessment, like why this was incorrect, and these results can then be fed back into the model to actually improve your workflow. I know that we only have 1 minute left. I'll let Jyotsna or Scott maybe add last minute comments, but yeah, go ahead, guys. We need to wrap up here, though.
I think the last comments, at least from my side, would be that the agent framework and the evaluation framework that Mosaic AI offers to you, that handles the end-to-end LLM ops cycle, as well as Databricks as a platform, we are able to handle your data. So it's like a one-stop shop where you have your data, you have your models, you have your evaluation, and you can easily iterate through that whole cycle, which makes it invaluable.
Exactly right. So yeah, this is basically the end-to-end. These are the things that we covered. I know there was a lot, but we covered notebook, SQL, workflows, AI Playground. All these things are part of the platform. You have this vector search, model registry, AI gateways, AI functions, right? So we have everything here in this as part of this platform for your teams to cooperate and work together to take those models into production. With that said, there is some homework that I was going to give you guys. Obviously, please go through the workflow, the handout that I gave you. That way, you guys can run through this through the code. Please reach out to your account essays. Ping me if you need any help. But thank you so much for being part of this workshop. We are pretty much at time here, and we're done. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thanks.